Nobody read the chat. Everybody look over here. Don't read the chat. How could you betray me? Oh my gosh. Listen, I needed to buy time because I wasn't ready for the stream to be on camera yet, so I needed you guys to say the code word before the stream could start. Hey, what Stitch did not add is that she was also cackling. It's Slichter. Yes, oh my gosh. If I appear slightly more green than usual, it is because of the lighting. But also, I don't know if I'm coming down with something. I took some Tylenol earlier, and I feel like my nose was kind of runny. But I think I've been chilling all day. I'm nearly done the Arha PowerPoint, and I feel pretty good right now. So hopefully my voice will not sound phlegmy today. Yes, not Slichter, Sichter, yes. No matter what, damn near killed her. Indeed. Also, what's up, guys? It's Kichter, Sichter, Slichter. How are you guys doing today? There is something going around. There are like so many little things going on. Spark Major, what's up? Any tips on opening a jar? Yes, I actually know how to do this. Okay, if you have a butter knife, if you can like safely hold the knife side, because it's like a butter knife, so it shouldn't be too sharp, right? And then with the like thicker, blunt side of the butter knife, like whack the very edge of the jar. Like, not like insanely hard, but like if you can get a tiny little dent in the edge of the jar, it should make it way easier to open. Just a good tap. Yeah! Spark Major, please update us on the jar. I don't care about anything else this entire stream but this jar now. Oh, Night Owl says opening my shop tomorrow night. Hey, that's so exciting! Oh my god, dude, let me know once it's up. That's so exciting. Spark Major says, I'm having a rough time over here. I just want some fucking salsa. Oh my god, I've had trouble opening salsa jars before as well. Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. Which salsa is it? I think my favorite salsa is the Tostitos medium one. Wizard of Moss says, oh my gosh, I wanted salsa earlier, but we didn't have any. Oh, terrible feeling. The worst, though, is when you have salsa and cheese and you don't have any chips. What do you do? Ew, Kate. Shatter the jar and slurp salsa off the floor. Ugh. Oh, Spark Major says, step granddad's homemade salsa. Oh, shit. And you know that lid's on there. Toit. Miss Rosie says, I have had 4.5 coffees today. Oh my god. And I'm working on my last 0.5 for the evening. So feeling awake. Oh my gosh. Yo, Stitch and I, this is like the Espresso Chronicles with our new espresso machine. We got new beans today. And I'll tell you, that espresso gauge, whoop, went right into optimum pressure. So I don't know, like, fucking how fresh your beans are supposed to be. Last time when we got the beans, they said they were roasted on the day that we bought them. But the ones that we got today said they were roasted, or we got them yesterday, said they were roasted the day before. And I think they're fresher. So it's like espresso gate. Like, there's something happening. But, yeah, made some fucking awesome espresso today. Every espresso we make gets better and better. On my second espresso of the day. The code word should have been espresso. I was thinking the code word, actually, I did, well, because I did have a code word in mind after someone said something to prompt me to think of the code word. But it was actually of someone Kate drew today. That's who I was thinking of. That was going to be the code word. Spark Major says it worked. It's open. Yay! Oh my god, I'm so glad. We all opened that jar together. We opened that jar together. Kate says, you can't show that art yet. It's secret. No worries, no worries. But, it's got a certain particular sword boy from, Scumvillain in it. Group effort for real, yes. 6 balls in the chat for Spark Major Salsa! Cup Noodle Cat says, are you ready for Arha 10? Listen, I am going to be the most ready for Arha 10 because I do believe the Arha Book Club video will come out the day before Arha 10 comes out. Dude, so much happens in Arha 9. So much. I was like, okay, this happens. And like, that happens and that happens. You know what I'm talking about. There's kind of like 3 big events that happen. But in between all of that, super important shit happens too. Like, oh my god, it's gonna be like a 3-hour book club. Yes, it will be the perfect recap. Night Owl. Are there any other Danmeis I should throw in there for temptation? Ooh, good question. What other Danmei characters would be good for a doll? Kate says, by the way, I finished Peerless and the reason Feng Xiao is bald is so funny. I think Stitch is like halfway through Peerless now. Spark Major says it would be faster to just read the book for the book club. Yay, Leo! I'm glad you get to be home until Sunday. That's great, Leo. I'm happy to hear that. And thumbs up for being brave. For going through all the scary stuff. Oh my goodness. Spark Major says, what is the book club lineup, if that's okay to ask? Firstly, how fucking dare you? I'm just joking. Aw, you're so sweet. The book club lineup right now, we have Nanchan in the PowerPoint is done. And Stitch is working on Peerless. I'm working on Arha. Right now. Those are the ones that are completed, I think. Wait 1 second. Stitch, did you finish 2 PowerPoints the other day? Oh, Legend of Exorcism 2. Yeah. Yeah. So we have 2 Danmei book clubs that are ready to film. And then the Arha one will be ready to film like tomorrow. When is case I will work on case files after I finish Arha's. I got a really nice comment on the case file book club video the other day that someone said like, this is so fucking funny. And I was like, yay, I'm glad that they're funny. Stitch and I are just laughing the whole time. Whenever you see like an edit in the book club videos, it's usually just because we're cracking up laughing. Kate says, I need you to explain the car scene in great detail to Stitch and watch her experience the horror again. Yes. Yes. Oh, the scene. Oh, the scene. Briarbox, thank you so much for donating. Thank you for sending that. I appreciate it. How are you guys doing today, Briarbox? How was your borscht, right? Did you post borscht? Making some soup or something? Rose City says, I started reading Salted Fish today due to shipping delays, the Kindle version. Oh, nice. So far, I'm loving it, and I should be done before Arha 10 comes out. I'm ready for trauma. Oh, gosh. Many trauma indeed. Justin Milk says, I love borscht. Spark Major says, I've been listening to the case file and I'm still in book 1. I cannot believe how far we've come. Yes. Yes. The case file trajectory is just absolutely nuts. Naj says, just finishing up QJJ Volume 1. If you ignore all the confusing Imperial Department names, it is such a good read. Great translation, such amazing banter between protagonists. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Stitch loves QJJ. Wizard of Moss says, I have read 1 page of Salted Fish, but I will get there. Yes. Hi, Starmander. Oh yeah, has anybody read There's Something Wrong with the Chief yet? Oh, Shane says, I'm obsessed with Run Wild right now. Thank you. Yes, I'm still reading Volume 2. I kind of got distracted for a bit and stopped reading it. But I picked it up recently again, so I would definitely like to do the book club on Volume 2. And CSZL, thank you for your donation. Recap, Susha exposed. Oh, and it was so embarrassing. Waves of corpses attack. Wei Wuxian used ultimate spirit flag. Very effective. The Wen saved the day. Sizhui has an oddly touching moment. The juniors help Wenning collect ashes and return to Lotus Pier. Oh, fuck. Dude, last chapter was so good. It was so good. I could, like, oh man, I definitely don't remember what the fuck is going on at, like, this part. And I don't know if I've ever read the part where Jiang Cheng finds out about, I won't say it, but in the book. Because I remember when I was reading these books, it was kind of all over the place. You know, like when you read something and then you're just like, I don't know who these people are, you know? Yeah, I've seen it in the Donghua, but I also remember when I was watching the Donghua back then, I was like binging it and I still didn't have a full grasp on who everybody was. Briarbox, you didn't make borscht? Okay, someone else made borscht, but you were making soup or something. Okay, you made pumpkin soup. Okay. I'm not super crazy. Briarbox says, I made chicken lettuce wraps. Oh, nice. And squash and peach cobbler. I was just thinking about the peach cobbler. Peach cobbler that almost ended my life. The other night I made pumpkin soup and turkey chili. Ooh, damn. Today Stitch was very sad because she wanted to make soup, but we didn't have any meat. So no soup was had. Instead, we had some meat buns. And those were good. CSDL says, I'm a little confused. Have you read all the books before, or did you only get so far? I thought I had read all of book 4 before. But I think I may have only read up to before this chapter, and then watched The Untamed, and then read the extras. So I don't, and I've also read the comic and seen the Donghua, but I don't think I ever actually finished the ending of the story all the way through in the book. But because of reading the comic and wanting to know like what the full scenes were, like the confession scene and the final scene with Jin Guanyao and shit like that, I've like gone back into the book and read a bunch of scenes, but I've never, I don't think, read all the way through in one go without getting confused by other mediums, if that makes sense. It's so muddled. Yes, it's so muddled. It was right when I was still like getting into Danmei too. Like I was still very much like just getting into TGCF when everyone was like, you have to read Modazushi, right? The concept of not reading a whole book consecutively in one go is so insane. It is insane because when I was back way, like this is like 4 years ago now, right? When like I was told to read Murazushi, so I was still reading it, and I didn't like know who the characters were. I had like a lot of my own ideas about the story, and then I did like the live reactions to the Donghua, and it was still like my first time getting into like Shansha novels and stuff, and like knowing the tropes and stuff. And like once I've gotten through all the muddled everything, I've somewhat recently rewatched all of the Untamed, so like that's very clear in my mind. And now we've been reading through this very consecutively, so the book is very clear in my mind. You know what I mean? What's up, Spacey? Kate says, which book that you haven't read yet are you most excited to read? And will it be after the TGCF live read? Yeah, after we do TGCF, what book should we do? I don't know. I don't know what we should do. Ooh, Yuwu. I can see your messages, Jay. I know, I'm like, should we do a book that I haven't read before? Probably. Disabled Tyrant's Beloved Pet Fish is also acceptable. I kind of want to read Thousand Autumns. Isn't that very long? All these books are long. I also want to read Yuwu. Maybe reading Yuwu on stream would be fun because it's Meat Bun. Yeah, maybe Yuwu. I think I'm kind of leaning towards reading Yuwu. And then you guys can cancel me live as I simp over the evil Guoshi. Also, we've been streaming quite regularly. Like we can get through a book. We can get through a book relatively quickly. Hello, Lex. Oh, you guys, you won't believe what happened. So we threw out our $600 rug, right? We threw it out. And then, guess who peed in our bedroom this morning? Who could it have been? But little Lexi! Yes! Yes! She said it's no fun to pee in the living room if there's no rug. Yep. It's okay. It's not your fault. You don't even know where you are. Isn't she so cute, though? Okay, you be good. You be good. Lexi also loves meat buns. All right. Shall we jump in? uncles uncle up. Let's uncle up. Let's uncle up. Lexi read all of our HUD? Dang, Lexi, you're so smart. Grab an uncle or something. Leo says, my girlfriend and I have been watching the Case File book clubs. She thinks they are hilarious and likes to make fun of Yu and call him pathetic, and she is so right. Indeed. Indeed. He is very pathetic. Alright. Core of the True-Hearted. Here we go. Night had fallen by the time the group reached the foot of the mountain. When they returned to town, the lights had been extinguished and it was quiet all around. Everyone was in a sorry state, drained in both body and spirit. Even their marching formations were wobbly and askew, the rows uneven. But after using the last vestiges of their strength to do a head count, they were heartened to find their numbers had hardly changed from when they first set out. Since most of the group hadn't fully recovered their spiritual powers, they couldn't ride swords. Travel by water was the fastest route to Lotus Pier, so the travel-weary band of thousands headed toward the harbor near Yiling. But because the decision to set off had been made on such short notice, not many boats could be rounded up quickly enough. The clan leaders had to rent every single boat at the docks, regardless of size, even fishing boats. They stuffed the vessels to full capacity with the various clans' disciples and set off down the river. Dozens of juniors from prominent clans had all been squeezed onto the fishing boat. The boys, raised in prestigious households, had never been forced onto such decrepit, creaky vessels. The boat was old and dismal, piled everywhere with filthy nets and buckets that reeked of fish. The wind was strong at night, making the boats rock up and down and side to side. Several boys who hailed from the dry north came down with bad cases of queasiness, and though they tried to endure it, could eventually no longer hold it in. They all dashed out of the cabin and heaved before slumping back onto dizzy heaps on the deck. "Ah, for heaven's sake," one of the boys complained. "All this rocking is raising waves in my stomach." "Hey, Sijue Shang, you're throwing up too? Aren't you from Gusu? You're not a northerner, so why are you puking even harder than me?" Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This was the worst field trip ever. Lan Sijue waved dismissively, looking sickly green. I don't know why either. I've been like this since I was 4 or 5. Every time I'm on a boat. Maybe I was born this way. As he spoke, queasiness surged within him again. He pulled himself upright with the support of the boat railing. Just as he was about to vomit some more, he suddenly saw a pitch-black figure clinging to the boat just below the railing. Half the man's body was submerged in the river water, and he was staring straight at Lan Sijue. In that split second, Lan Sijue was so scared he swallowed back down everything he was about to vomit. His hand had just reached the hilt of his sword when he managed to take a closer look. "Ghost!" he gasped. Inside the cabin, Jin Ling caught that word and charged out, wielding his sword. "Where's the ghost? Where? I'll kill it for you." "Aw." "It's not a ghost," Lan Sijue explained. "It's the ghost general." The boys swarmed onto the deck and looked where Lan Sijue was pointing. Sure enough, the ghost general Wen Ning was the shadowy black figure who clung to the boat just below the railing, visible from where they stood. I'm like, is Jin Ling in love with Lan Sijue? Wen Ning had vanished after they had descended the burial mounds. Not one of them had expected him to be silently clinging to the fishing boat for who knows how long. While Wen Ning had fought alongside them back at the burial mounds, there had been a lot of people and many elders around. But it was the middle of the night, and now they were themselves on the water. Wen Ning's sudden and frankly bizarre appearance gave the boys a fright. Both parties stared at each other, stunned. Ouyang Jishen was the first to shrink back. "Why did the ghost general come to us on his own?" he said, sitting on the deck. "No wonder the boat was going so slow," one of the boys grumbled. "It was because there's extra dead weight weighing us down." "Why is he clinging there?" "Whatever the reason, it's definitely not to hurt us. Otherwise, he wouldn't have protected us during the day at the burial mounds. But there's no danger now, so why did he come find us again?" "Pfft! What are you laughing about, Jingyi?" "Look at him," Lan Jingyi said through his laughter. He looks like a big sea turtle, the way he's clinging to the side of the boat and not moving. Now that he mentioned it, some of them realized Wen Ning did resemble a giant big sea turtle. They didn't laugh, however. "He's coming up!" Ouyang Jishen exclaimed. Sure enough, Wen Ning had pulled himself out of the water and was slowly climbing up, using a thick rope that dangled from the deck. The boys scattered in an instant. A few of the more timid ones ran around the deck in panic, their feet stomping heavily on the boards as they screamed at random. "He's coming up! He's coming up! The Ghost General's coming!" "What's there to be scared of?" Lan Jingyi asked. "It's not like we've never seen him before." "What do we do? Should we call people over?" When a dripping Wen Ning flipped over the railing and landed heavily on the deck, the entire fishing boat seemed to rock. The boys were extremely nervous, wishing desperately they could shift to the other side of the deck. Their hearts were pounding, but they were too abashed to raise a sword against him. Wen Ning stared intently at Lan Sijue's face, then started to walk towards him. Lan Sijue, sensing he was here specifically for him, steadied himself. What is your name?" Wen Ning asked him. "Homotron?" Homotron says, "Bro, I ship Jin Ling and Lan Sijue so much. One of my friends from China said they're more popular over there." "Oh, no way!" "Okay, I've definitely seen some super cute art of them, so I ship it too." "I ship it too." Lan Sijue was slightly taken aback, then stood tall. "I am a junior of the Lan clan of Gusu. My name is Lan Yuan." "Lan Yuan?" Wen Ning repeated. Lan Sijue nodded. Do you know who gave you that name?" Wen Ning then asked. The dead could not form facial expressions. Maybe it was only Lan Sijue's imagination, but Wen Ning's eyes seemed to light up. "Also, Homotron, thank you so much for donating! Sorry I didn't say that first. Thank you so much." He also thought Wen Ning looked excited enough to be stumbling over his words. It was making him excited as well, as if a secret that had been sealed for years was about to be revealed. "My name was, of course, given to me by my parents," Lan Sijue answered carefully. "Then are your parents still alive and well?" Wen Ning asked. "My parents passed away when I was very young," Lan Sijue replied. One of the boys tugged on Lan Sijue's sleeve and whispered, "Sijue, don't say too much. Watch out for tricks." Wen Ning blinked. "Sijue is your courtesy name?" "Yes," Lan Sijue confirmed. "Who gave it to you?" Wen Ning asked. "Heng Guanzhen," Lan Sijue replied. Wen Ning lowered his head and silently recited the name. "Another Shiba baby is in here. Oh my goodness. This one, the one that does not pee inside. Oh, you come here." She's gone. Wen Ning lowered his head and silently recited the name Sijue to himself a few more times. Seeing some sort of understanding dawn on him, Lan Sijue asked him about it. He was about to call him General, but felt it sounded strange and chose another address. "Mr. Wen, is there something about my name?" Calling Wen Ning Mr. Wen! "Mr. Wen." Wen Ning looked up and scrutinized his face. What he said next did not answer the question. You look a lot like one of my distant relatives." This sounded very much like the kind of excuse a low-level cultivator or a non-blood-related sect disciple would use to try and cozy up to the juniors of the main household. The group of boys were growing more and more mystified, not knowing what to make of this. Lan Sijue didn't know how to respond either, so he only replied, "Really?" "Yes," Wen Ning confirmed enthusiastically. He tried hard to lift the muscles at the corner of his lips, as if wanting to squeeze out a smile. For some reason, the way Ghost General was acting seemed grievously familiar to Lan Sijue. A vague thought resurfaced in his mind. He had seen this face somewhere before. There was a form of address on the tip of his tongue. If he could only blurt it out, many other things would follow and everything would become clear. But at that moment, he saw Jin Ling. Jin Ling's face was dark. He looked extremely upset. His grip on his sword tightened and slackened fitfully, just as the veins on the back of his hand came and went. Only then did Lan Sijue remember that the Ghost General Wen Ning, who seemed so harmless, was the one who had murdered Jin Ling's father. Following his gaze, Wen Ning's smile also gradually vanished. He slowly turned towards Jin Ling. Jin Rulan Gongza? Who's that? Jin Ling replied coldly. Wen Ning fell silent for a moment, then changed his greeting. Jin Ling Xiao Gongza. Jin Ling stared hard at him, while the other boys stared nervously at Jin Ling, afraid he was about to act rashly. Jin Gongza, Lan Sizhui started. Move, this has nothing to do with you, Jin Ling stated. But Lan Sizhui could tell that this might not be entirely unrelated to him. He stepped in front of Jin Ling and blocked his path. Jin Ling, put your sword away first. Jin Ling was already tense as a taut string. With his vision now obstructed, he snapped without thinking. Don't block me! He shoved Lan Sizhui. Already queasy and unsteady on his feet, Lan Sizhui crashed into the railing and almost toppled into the river's pitch-black waters. Thankfully, Wen Ning pulled him back just in time. The boys immediately scrambled over to give Lan Sizhui a helping hand. Sizhui Shang! Dogs are going crazy in here. Oh, what are you... You go find Stitch. Go get her. Stitch, can you call Link? Go get her. God, sorry guys, she's going crazy. Homotron, thank you for another donation. Oh my goodness. Homotron says, yeah, I gotta say, if Jin Ling and Lan Sizhui ever did become a thing, the family reunion is gonna be real awkward, right? I was just thinking about that, actually. Jin Ling's like, if the fuck you mean your weird distant uncle guy killed my dad, right? Oh my gosh. The most awkward Christmas party ever. Lan Gongza, are you alright? Are you still nauseated? Wen Ning grew distressed at the sight of Lan Sizhui's blanched face. Jin Gongza, please attack me instead. I, Wen Ning, will never fight back. But Lan Yuan Gongza... Lan Jingyi was furious. Jin Ling, why are you like this? He berated. What did Sizhui do to you? Sizhui Shang acted in your own best interest. It's fine if you don't appreciate that, but why push him? Jin Ling was also startled by the force of his own reaction at first. But the sight of his peers rushing to help Lan Sizhui and turning to scold him was familiar, matching countless others in his memory. For many years, everyone said he was spoiled because he was an orphan with no one to discipline him, that he had a rotten temper and was difficult to get along with. He had no close friends his own age, whether at Golden Carp Tower or Lotus Pier. The high status afforded to him by his birth only made his situation more awkward. When he was little, there were no juniors from the prominent clans who liked playing with him. Now that he was older, there were no juniors from the prominent clans who would follow him. The more he thought about it, the more his eyes reddened. Oh no, is he gonna cry? That's right, it's all my fault, he suddenly shouted. I'm just that terrible of a person. What are you all gonna do about it? The other boys were stunned by his outburst. They were speechless until someone grumbled indignantly. What? You're the one who pushed him. What are you getting so mad at us for? So what? Jin Ling spat. You gonna discipline me? Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji were riding in the closest boat. At the sound of all the yelling, Wei Wuxian paused and then rushed outside the cabin to look at the neighboring vessel. He immediately spotted Jin Ling in a face-off with the others and called over to them. What's going on? The sight of the two of them always made Lan Sizhui feel even the most difficult situations could be resolved. Hang Guanjun! Wei Chanbei! He shouted to them, overjoyed. Come over quick! Mom, Dad, please, please, please! Lan Wangji wrapped his arms around Wei Wuxian's waist and brought them onto Bishan. Oh my, oh my! The pair rowed the sword across to land on the other fishing boat. Wei Wuxian teetered a little bit, but Lan Wangji held him safely. Oh my god, held him steady, sorry. Oh my god, he's gonna think about a little manhandling? Okay. Once he was settled, Wei Wuxian asked, Wen Ning, what's going on? Didn't you say you were just gonna take a gander? I'm sorry, Gongza, Wen Ning said. It's my fault. I couldn't hold back. Jin Ling pointed his sword at him. Drop the act, he roared furiously. Jin Ling, Wei Wuxian said, put your sword down first. No, I won't, Jin Ling said. Wei Wuxian was about to say more, but Jin Ling unexpectedly burst into tears. No, oh sweet baby. Oh no. Everyone was stunned, speechless. Wei Wuxian took a step towards him, bewildered. What's wrong? Even as tears streamed down Jin Ling's face, his voice was loud and furious between sobs. This is my dad's sword! I'm not putting it down! He hugged Jin Sizhuan's sword, Sui Hua, tight to his chest. That sword was the one and only thing his parents had left him. The sight of Jin Ling wailing aloud in front of an audience evoked something in Wei Wuxian's memory. It was almost as if he were looking at a heartbroken Zhang Yanli weeping profusely. Some young men of Jin Ling's age were already married, while some, who were only slightly older, even had children. To them, crying was a humiliating act. One could only imagine how aggrieved Jin Ling was to stand there, crying for all to see. Wei Wuxian was momentarily at a loss. He looked pleadingly at Lan Wangji, as if wanting to ask him for help, but Lan Wangji was even less likely to have an answer. A voice suddenly rang out from across the river just then. Aling! 5 or 6 large boats surrounded their fishing vessel, each packed full of cultivators and with a clan leader standing on the bow. The bow. The Zheng clan of Yunmeng's boat was the closest, just directly to the right of the small fishing boat, with only 16 meters between them. The voice they heard was Jiang Cheng's, and he stood at the ship's railing. Oh no, Jiang Cheng gonna see you crying. The moment he saw his uncle through his teary eyes, Jin Ling wiped his face haphazardly and sniffled. He looked this way and that, then gritted his teeth before flying over on his sword and landing beside Jiang Cheng. Jiang Cheng grabbed him. What's going on? He demanded. Who bullied you? Oh, okay. Jiang Cheng immediately being on his side and seeing, like, who bullied you and saving him. I like that. Jin Ling rubbed his eyes hard, unwilling to speak. Jiang Cheng looked up, shooting a grim glance towards the fishing boat. His cold glare swept over Wen Ning and was just about to stop on Wei Wuxian when Lan Wangji stepped forward and, whether by accident or design, very coincidentally blocked his line of sight. Oh, hell yeah. I love how, like, defensive, protective boyfriend Lan Wangji is being now. He is like, when he was like, I'm with you, I will protect you, he meant that, man. One of the family heads warily spoke up. Wei Wuxian, what are you doing on that boat? His tone was suspicious and unpleasant. Clearly he thought Wei Wuxian harbored evil intentions. Sect leader Yao, Ouyang Zishan said, why must you speak like that? If Wei Qianbei wanted to do anything, no one on the boat would be sitting here safe and sound right now. Many of the older cultivators felt a touch of embarrassment at his words. Although it was the truth, no one wanted to hear it being voiced so bluntly. Jishan is right, Lan Sijue immediately chimed in. Many of the boys also agreed in unison. Jiang Cheng cocked his head and called out, Sect Leader Ouyang. Sect Leader Ouyang's eye twitched and his heart pounded at being named. He heard Jiang Cheng say to him in a frosty tone, if I remember correctly, the one speaking to us right now is your son. He certainly is eloquent. Ooh. Zishan! The Sect Leader Ouyang hurriedly called to his son. Come back! Come over to Dad! Puzzled, Ouyang Zishan said, Dad, weren't you the one who told me to stay on this boat and not bother you? Sect Leader Ouyang wiped away his sweat. That's enough! Haven't you made enough of a splash today? Come here right now! His sect was based in Baling, which was close to Yunmeng. He couldn't possibly compete with the Zheng clan's power and influence, and he had no desire to get in Jiang Cheng's bad books just because his son kept speaking up for Wei Wuxian. Jiang Cheng threw a glare at Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji before returning to the cabin with his arm around Jin Ling's shoulders. Oh, he really does protect him. Sect Leader Ouyang breathed a sigh of relief and yelled at his son again. You only grow more disobedient the older you get. Are you coming over or not? If not, I'm coming over to nab you myself. Dad, you should go back inside the cabin and rest up too, Ouyang Zishan urged with concern. Your spiritual power hasn't recovered yet. I'm sure there's no way you can come over. Don't try and ride your sword so rashly, okay? The majority of the cultivators were still in the process of recovering their spiritual power. If they tried to force themselves to ride their swords, they might just plummet headfirst to the ground, which was, of course, why they had traveled by boat to begin with. Sect Leader Ouyang was also notably tall and burly, given his weight. It really was impossible for him to fly over and nab his son. He was so infuriated by the boy that he stormed off to the cabin in a whirl of sleeves. From another boat, Ni Huaisong laughed out loud. The other clan leaders looked at him, speechless, but those who should be dispersing began to do so. On seeing this, Wei Wuxian heaved a long sigh of relief. A look of extreme wariness suddenly spread across his face, and he tilted to one side. Apparently, his unsteadiness earlier wasn't because he'd been off balance on the fishing boat, but because he was simply too exhausted to remain on his feet. Unbothered by the blood and filth he was covered in, the boys scrambled over to help support him as they had just done with Lan Sizhui. But there was no need for them to do so. Bending slightly at the waist, Lan Wangji placed an arm around Wei Wuxian's shoulders, another under his legs, and picked him up in one swoop. Ah! Oh my god! Oh my god! Homotron, yes! Thank you for donating again! Lan Wangji be like, I cannot afford to fuck up my shop with this fine demonic man a second time. Yes, he is taking no chances. He is saving him, protecting him, helping him. Bye, Glitch. I hope you feel better. He carried Wei Wuxian into the cabin like that. There were only 4 long wooden benches inside and no place to lie down. Lan Wangji wrapped an arm around Wei Wuxian's waist and let his head rest on his shoulder. With his other hand, he pushed and pulled the 4 benches together to make a surface wide enough to lie on, then gently settled Wei Wuxian there. Lan Sizhui suddenly noticed that even though Han Guanzhun was drenched in blood, the bandage Wei Wuxian had torn from his own sleeve to dress a small wound on the fingers of his left hand was still securely knotted in place. Oh, that's kind of like a subtle foreshadowing of like the red string being tied around Hualien, you know? Oh. They're married. Lan Sizhui is like, damn. I just saw Han Guanzhun get married. Thus far, Lan Wangji had been too preoccupied to bother with appearances. Only now did he take out his handkerchief and use it to slowly wipe the coagulated blood from Wei Wuxian's face. It didn't take long for the snow-white handkerchief to be stained shades of black and red, and despite having cleaned Wei Wuxian's face, he had yet to wipe his own. Oh, he loves him so deeply. Oh. Crimson Queen, thank you so much for gifting a membership. You have transmigrated another reader to Pride Immortal Demon Way. Thank you so much, Crimson Queen. How are you doing? Glad to see you here. Ugh, Lan Wangji, I love him so much. I love the strong, silent, caring man. Lan Sizhui hurriedly presented his own handkerchief. Han Guanzhun! Lan Wangji took it and lowered his head. One swipe of the handkerchief left a field of snowy white in its wake. The boys were then able to breathe a sigh of relief. It was true. Han Guanzhun only looked normal with a face of ice and snow. Han Guanzhun, Ouyang Zichen asked, why did Wei Qianbei collapse? He is tired, Lan Wangji answered. Lan Jingyi was astonished. I thought Wei Qianbei could never tire. The other boys were similarly shocked, finding it inconceivable that the legendary Yiling patriarch could collapse from exhaustion after dealing with walking corpses. Just hear Stitch in the other room going, you little bastard! What does she have?
I don't know, but she's going crazy over this small piece of rubber.
What is that?
Crazy for it though. It's best
so
toy in the world. So slobbery.
Like, what is this from? This is not a good sign. A knife. Secret Stitch sighting. She says, never mind that I'm in pajamas. We're both in pajamas. We've been in pajamas all day. Actually, we did switch out of our pajamas into other pajamas earlier. The Shibas had a tiny little piece of black plastic. Who knows where they got that? I love you. Emma says, if we combine the devotion of Hua Cheng with the deep love and care of Lan Wangji, we would love the perfect man. Yes! Oh, God. I really love, like it is a different way of showing love and affection and stuff. Like, it feels so special when you see Lan Wangji be very sweet since he is so reserved. And, like, Hua Cheng is a chatterbox. I also love that Sidgway is, like, not homophobic at all. Like, he sees Lan Wangji be very sweet to Wei Wuxian and he's never, like, weirded out by it or anything. Okay, let me read this part again. I thought Wei Qianbei could never tire. The other boys were similarly shocked, finding it inconceivable that the legendary Yiling patriarch could collapse from exhaustion after dealing with walking corpses. They'd all thought the Yiling patriarch could settle everything with a mere snap of his fingers. Lan Wangji, however, shook his head. We are all human, he stated simply. They were all human. What human would not tire, and what human would never collapse? It's true, though. This is all about, like, you know, everybody, their ideas of evil and, like, not just talking to each other like it's just human to human, you know? Lan Wangji had pushed all the long benches together, so the boys could only crouch in a circle and look on helplessly. If Wei Wuxian had been awake, the cabin would have been alive with his wisecracking and his glib tongue teasing everyone in turn. But no, he had to be down for the count, which left only Hang Guangjun, who sat straight as a brush beside him. Normally someone would start chatting to liven up the atmosphere, but no one dared say a word when Lan Wangji wasn't speaking. Even after they'd been squatting there for a long time, dead silence still prevailed inside the cabin. The boys grumbled to themselves. How boring. They were so bored that they started communicating with their eyes. Why isn't Hang Guangjun saying anything? Why has Wei Qianbei still not woken up? Cupping his cheeks with both hands, Ouyang Jishen pointed here and there to express himself. Is Hang Guangjun always this silent? How can Wei Qianbei stand being around him all day? Lan Sidgway gave a grave nod of his head in soundless confirmation. Hang Guangjun certainly has always been this way. Suddenly, Wei Wuxian frowned and tilted his head. Lan Wangji gently moved his head back in place, lest he sprain his neck. Lan Zhan, Wei Wuxian mumbled. Everyone was overjoyed, thinking he was about to wake up, but Wei Wuxian's eyes remained tightly shut. Lan Wangji, on the other hand, looked as he usually did. I am here. Wei Wuxian said nothing else. He nuzzled against Lan Wangji, as if feeling safe and reassured, and continued to sleep. Oh my god! Oh my god! In front of the juniors is crazy! I love it so much. The boys stared blankly at the two of them. Then, for some reason, they suddenly blushed. Lan Sidgway was the first to stand up. Hang Guangjun, we will go outside for a bit, he stammered. Oh my god. They practically fled out onto the deck. Only when the night breeze blew against them did that awful, suffocating feeling dissipate. What the heck? Someone said. Why did we have to rush out? Why? Ouyang Zishen covered his face. I don't know why either, but I suddenly got the feeling it was really inappropriate to stick around in there. They pointed at each other and cried accusations. What are you blushing for? I'm blushing 'cause you're blushing. Wen Ning hadn't gone over to help support Wei Wuxian in the first place, nor followed them into the cabin. Instead, he crouched on the deck outside. The boys had found this strange at first, wondering why he didn't go in. It was only now that they realized just how wise the Joseon General truly was. There was absolutely no room for anyone else in there. Wen Ning seemed to have expected them to come out because he made room for them to crouch with him. However, only Lan Sidgway walked over and did so. The other boys muttered among themselves on the other side of the deck. Why does Sidgway seem to be on familiar terms with the Ghost General? Lan Gongzi, can I call you Ayuan? Wen Ning asked. The boys were inwardly horrified to think the Ghost General is so forward. However, Lan Sidgway answered him with delight. Sure. Ayuan, have you been doing well all these years? Wen Ning asked. Very well, Lan Sidgway answered. Wen Ning nodded. Hang Guangjun must have treated you very well. Oh. Hearing the respect in his tone when he mentioned Lan Wangji made Lan Sidgway feel even closer to him. Hang Guangjun treats me as a brother and Hang Guangjun treats me as a father would. He was the one who taught me to play the guqin. When did Hang Guangjun start raising you? Wen Ning asked. Lan Shizhui pondered for a moment, then answered, I don't remember. Probably when I was 4 or 5 years old. I don't have many memories of my childhood, but Han Guanzhun probably couldn't have been the one taking care of me when I was younger than that. He seemed to have been in seclusion for many years at the time. Homotron, thank you for donating again. In front of the juniors is crazy. The juniors literally saw Lan Wangji tie Wei Wuxian up in his forehead ribbon. They're lucky they weren't doing other things. You're right. They've seen many sides of Wang Xun's dynamic already. It suddenly occurred to him that the first siege of the burial mounds had taken place at the same time as Han Guanzhun's seclusion. Inside the cabin, Lan Wangji glanced at the door where the juniors had closed when they rushed out, then looked down again at Wei Wuxian, whose head was tilting to the side once more. His eyebrows were knitted, and he seemed very uncomfortable, tossing and turning his head. Seeing this, Lan Wangji stood up and walked to the door to bolt it before returning to sit beside Wei Wuxian. He pulled Wei Wuxian upright by the shoulders and let him gently rest in his embrace. Oh my god. That's so sweet. I love this so much. There is so much just unsaid between them. Like, they've had some pretty flirty moments, like Wei Wuxian calling him Lanar Gaga in the hay. And just, you know, like, sleeping in the same bed, and Lan Wangji not letting him go. And then Wei Wuxian kissed him when Lan Wangji was drunk. But this is like, oh, I love just seeing Lan Wangji just care for him so deeply. With this change of position, Wei Wuxian's head finally stopped flopping back and forth. He burrowed into Lan Wangji's chest and eventually found a comfortable position to sleep in. Oh. Seeing him settle down, Lan Wangji lowered his head to gaze at the face of the man in his arms. His long, black hair cascaded down. All of a sudden, eyes still closed, Wei Wuxian grabbed Lan Wangji's collar. His fingers just so happened to catch hold of the tail of his forehead ribbon. He gripped the ribbon tight. Lan Wangji tugged at the ribbon tail. Not only did he fail to pull it out from Wei Wuxian's grip, but his efforts made Wei Wuxian's eyelashes quiver. Just in case you didn't think that if this was a soulmate moment, he had to touch the soulmate band. Not a moment later, Wei Wuxian woke up. When he slowly opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was the wooden ceiling of the cabin. He sat up. Lan Wangji stood by a wooden window in the cabin, gazing out into the distance at the luminous moon at the river's end. Han Guanzhun, did I pass out earlier? Wei Wuxian asked. How did Lan Wangji get up so quickly? Lan Wangji turned his head and answered calmly. Calmly, after just rushing over to the window. Yes. Wei Wuxian followed this with another question. Where's your forehead ribbon? ... Done with his questions, Wei Wuxian looked down and made a noise of surprise. Oops, how'd that happen? It's right here in my hands. Oh my gosh! Done with his questions, Wei Wuxian looked down and made a noise of surprise. Oops, how'd that happen? It's right here in my hands. He swung his legs off the long benches. So sorry about that. I like hugging something while I sleep. If I don't have anything to hug, I tend to grab at things at random. My bad, Kay. Here you go. Lan Wangji stayed silent a moment longer, then took the forehead ribbon he had handed him. It is fine. Wei Wuxian, however, was trying so hard to suppress his laughter that he was about to suffer an internal injury. There had certainly been a moment earlier when he'd really wanted to sleep, but he wasn't quite so frail that he would faint at the drop of a hat. But who knew? He'd just teetered a little, and Lan Wangji had swept him up with incomparable haste. It made Wei Wuxian too embarrassed to say, hey, don't worry about it, I can stand on my own. And honestly, he didn't want to be set back down. This motherfucker was awake! Why stand when you can be carried? Wei Wuxian rubbed his neck, feeling secretly delighted and smug, even as he lamented to himself. Ah, Lan Zhan is honestly... Had I known this would happen, I wouldn't have woken up. I could have lain in his arms the entire journey if I was still out cold. Oh my god. They arrived in Yunmeng just before dawn. Lotus Pier's main gates and dock were so brightly illuminated that their reflection in the waters gleamed with golden light. The dock had rarely seen so many boats of so many sizes gathered around all at once. Not only were the guards before the gates stunned at the sight, but even the old men still selling midnight snacks at the riverside stalls were dumbstruck. Jiang Cheng was the first to disembark. He gave a few orders to the guards, and countless fully geared disciples immediately poured out of the main gates. The crowd disembarked in batches, and the guest cultivators from the Jiang sect arranged for them to enter. Sect leader Ouyang finally nabbed his son and dragged him away, lecturing him under his breath. Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji walked out of the cabin and hopped off the fishing boat. Gongzi, Wen Ning called out, "I'll wait for you outside." Wei Wuxian nodded, knowing that Wen Ning would not step through the main gates of Lotus Pier, and Jiang Cheng would never allow it regardless. "Mr. Wen, I'll keep you company," Lan Sizhui said. "You will?" Wen Ning exclaimed in delight. He hadn't expected that at all. Oh my god. With a smile, Lan Sizhui said, "Yeah, in any case, the seniors are going to discuss important matters, so it's pointless for me to head inside. Let's continue our conversation. Where were we just now? Did Wei Qianbei really plant a 2-year-old child in the soil like he would a radish?" Although his voice was quiet, the two in front had extremely keen hearing. Wei Wuxian stumbled in his step. Lan Wangji quirked his eyebrows for a moment, but he recovered in no time. After their backs disappeared through the main gates of Lotus Pier, Lan Sizhui continued in a hushed tone. "That poor child. But actually, I remember Hang Guanzhun once set me down in the middle of a bunch of rabbits when I was little. The two of them are really quite similar in some respects." He put him with all the rabbits! That's so cute. Oh my god. Before they entered the main gates of Lotus Pier, Wei Wuxian took a deep breath to calm himself. But once he strode through, he found he wasn't as worked up as he expected to be. Perhaps it was because too much had been renovated. The drilling grounds had been expanded to twice its size, and the upturned eaves and corners of dozens of new buildings peeked out from behind each other at varying heights. It was much more imposing and glorious than before, but it was almost unrecognizable compared to the Lotus Pier of his memory. Wei Wuxian felt a sense of loss. He didn't know whether the old buildings were obstructed from view by the resplendent new ones, or if they had all been demolished by now. After all, they really were very old. The various sects' disciples formed into square formations again on the drilling ground. They settled into the Lotus meditation pose to continue to recuperate and recover their spiritual powers. After nearly a full day and night of torment, they were utterly exhausted and needed to catch their breath. Jiang Cheng led the leaders and important cultivators into the main hall of the household, Sword Hall, to discuss the day's events. Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji followed them inside. Some found this slightly inappropriate, but there was nothing they could say about it. They had only just entered and yet to take their seats when someone who looked like a guest cultivator hurried over to Jiang Cheng. "Sect leader." He moved in close and whispered a few words into Jiang Cheng's ear. Jiang Cheng frowned. "No, I will not meet them. If they have matters to discuss, it can wait for another day. Can't you read the room right now?" "That's what I told them," the guest cultivator replied, but the two ladies said today's matter is precisely why they have come. "What's their background? Which sect do they belong to?" Jiang Cheng questioned. "They're not from any sect, and they aren't cultivators either," the guest cultivator answered. "I'm certain they are both ordinary women without spiritual power. They only just arrived today. They brought a batch of rare and expensive medicinal herbs with them, but didn't specify which clan leader sent them. All they said was that they had something to tell you. It didn't sound like a trivial matter, the way they said it. I didn't want them to feel slighted, so I put them up at the guest house. The medicinal herbs have not gone into storage yet. I have inspected them for inappropriate spells, and found nothing." The head of the Zheng clan of Yunmeng didn't meet with just anyone, especially when they were unwilling to reveal who they were, even less so to ordinary women with no spiritual powers and no background to speak of. But since they had brought with them a batch of rare, expensive medicinal herbs, the guest cultivator responsible for receiving them did not dare slight them. Even without the generous gifts, the oddness of the encounter would have been enough to make him take them seriously. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jiang Cheng called from the room's attention, "please make yourselves at home. Allow me to excuse myself for a moment. I will be right back." The crowd responded one after another. "Of course, sect leader Jiang." However, Jiang Cheng did not come right back. In fact, he did not return for a long time. Leaving guests unattended was already a breach of etiquette, all the more so in these extraordinary circumstances, where everyone was waiting to discuss important affairs. When Jiang Cheng had still not appeared, almost an hour later, many of the guests started to feel uneasy or displeased. It was then that Jiang Cheng finally returned. He had left with a neutral expression, but his face was now cold and serious. He walked swiftly and brought 2 people with him. They were 2 women, presumably the same pair that had come calling on him. At first, everyone assumed there had to be something special about these women for them to be able to come bearing such generous gifts. Unexpectedly, neither of them was young, their advanced age evidenced in the deep creases at the corners of their eyes and mouths. One looked meek and apprehensive, while the other was notable not just because she looked like a strumpet, but because of the 5 or 6 scarred slash marks across her face. The scars were old, but they looked so horrifying that the cultivators were utterly repulsed and disappointed. They began grumbling to themselves, wondering why Jiang Cheng had brought these 2 women to Sword Hall, even directing them to the center of the room. When you guys say trigger warning, you have to say what the trigger is. I don't remember what happens, but is it possible to say the trigger without spoiling it? Sect Leader Jiang, what do you mean by this? Oh wait, sorry, I missed my spot. With a somber expression, Jiang Cheng spoke to the 2 women, who were taking their seats in trepidation. Tell us about it right here. Sect Leader Jiang, what do you mean by this? Sect Leader Yao asked. What I just learned from them is too appalling to describe. I did not dare act carelessly, so I questioned them at length. This is why I was delayed. Everyone, please quiet down and listen to these 2. Jiang Cheng turned around and asked, which of you will start? The 2 women looked at each other. The woman with the weathered air of a lady of the night was more daring, so she stood up. I'll go first, then. She casually curtsied to the crowd. What I'm about to tell you is an incident that happened roughly 11 years ago. Jiang Cheng's tone told everyone that what the woman was about to say was significant. They wondered to themselves what could have happened 11 years ago. My name is Mdzs, the woman began. I used to be a working girl, and I guess I was pretty popular for a while. Over a decade ago, there was this wealthy merchant I wanted to marry, but his wife turned out to be a real scary one. She hired a gang of burly brutes to cut up my face, and that's how I got like this. The woman spoke without shame and didn't mince her words. As she went on, some female cultivators covered their mouths with the sleeves, and some male cultivators frowned. With my face like this, life was no longer the same, Mdzs continued. No one was willing to spare me a glance, let alone hire me to do my business. My original brothel threw me out. I have no other skills and couldn't find customers anywhere, so I partnered up with some older sisters in the same line of work. Their customers didn't demand much, and if they got any jobs, they would bring me along with them. As long as I covered up my face, I could make it work. Rose City Kimono, thank you for donating. Says, trigger warning within the flashback with Creeper, Jin Patriarch. Yeah, Jin Guanshan. Yeah. Jin Guanshan and women, not a good mix. At this point, some of the cultivators couldn't take it anymore. The naked contempt in their eyes blazed forth, stark and undisguised for all to see. Some didn't understand why Jiang Cheng wanted the crowd to hear this woman speak publicly of her salacious past. The clan leaders, however, kept their cool and waited for her to continue. Sure enough, Mdzs arrived at the point. One day, my sisters, who worked out of the same alley as me, suddenly received a job. They hired over 20 of us and took us to the location in a horse carriage. After discussing the pay, my older sisters were thrilled to bits as they sat in that carriage, but I felt something wasn't right. To put it bluntly, everyone there was either old and faded, like a yellowing pearl, or scarred, like me. But we were paid so much money, and paid in advance to boot. Wasn't it too good to be true? What's more, the person who sought us out was awful secretive and sneaky. He pulled up, loaded everyone right into the carriage, and whisked us away without letting anyone else see. No matter how you looked at it, he didn't seem like he meant well. The others in the room thought so as well. Their initial contempt had been replaced with curiosity. When the carriage arrived at the destination, it drove directly into a courtyard and let us off there, Sissa continued. None of us had ever seen such a tall, glorious house. We were so dazzled by the sight that we didn't even dare breathe. There was a boy leaning against the doorway, fiddling with a dagger. When he saw us, he told us to enter before closing the door behind us. We went inside. In that huge house, there were only 2 people. There was a man lying under a brocade quilt on the bed. He was about 30 or 40 years old and looked so sick that he was basically half dead. When he noticed us enter, he could only move his eyes. "Oh!" Someone in Sword Hall suddenly exclaimed in shock as realization dawned. 11 years ago? That's... Someone had instructed us beforehand about what we should do. Every single one of us was to pleasure the man on the bed to the fullest extent of our skills, without even a moment's pause, Sissa continued. I'd been expecting some kind of extraordinarily manly guy, not an invalid. Would he even survive us? He'd probably drop dead 2 rounds in. How could someone be such a sex maniac? Besides, they were rich. It's not like they couldn't afford young and pretty girls, so why did they insist on hiring old and ugly ones like us? I was still trying to figure it out when I climbed on top of him. Suddenly, I heard another man laugh. It made me jump. It was only then I realized there was a curtain beside the bed, and a person sitting behind it. Everyone's heart was in their throats. I realized he'd been sitting behind the curtain all along, Sissa continued. The moment he laughed, the man on the bed began to struggle. He threw me off him and rolled off the bed, and that person only laughed harder. As he laughed, he said, "Father, I've brought you the woman you love so much. There are so many of them. Aren't you happy?" Oh, fuck! Oh, fuck! Oh, shit. I'm sorry, Jiggy. I can't excuse that one. Fuck. Everyone felt their hair stand on end. Although those words had been spoken by Sissa, their minds could clearly picture them coming from another's ever-smiling mouth. Jin Guangyao. And the half-dead man on the bed must have been Jin Guanshan. Jin Guanshan's death had always been an open secret among the clans. The man had been a philanderer his whole life, to the extent it was almost obscene. He left a trail of lovers and offspring in his wake across the land, and even the cause of his death was related to the hobby. Despite being the head of the Jin clan of Lanling, he insisted on making merry with women even as his health deteriorated. Eventually, he died in the middle of intercourse, which was too undignified a death to announce to the public. After suffering the painful loss of her only son and daughter-in-law, Madame Jin had already been depressed for several years, and then she learned that her husband had not only not stopped fooling around, but even thrown his life away in the process. This infuriated her so much that she fell ill and passed away not long after. The Jin clan of Lanling attempted to cover up what happened, but everyone knew the truth. On the surface, they sighed with grief and regret, but in reality, they all thought that it served him right. He deserved to die in such a way. Whew! Who could have dreamed they'd hear an even uglier and more revolting truth today? Sharp intakes of breath rose and fell, one after another, in Sword Hall. The middle-aged man wanted to shout and struggle, but he had no strength left in him, Sissa carried on. The boy who had let us inside opened the door again and entered the room. He dragged the man back onto the bed, laughing cheekily all the while. Then he trussed him up, tied him down, and braced his foot against his head as he tightened the rope. He told us to continue, to not stop even if he died. None of us had ever seen anything like it. We were scared to death, but we didn't dare disobey, so we kept going. By the 11th or 12th round, the sister attending to him suddenly screamed that he was dead. I went up to take a look. He really wasn't breathing, but the man behind the curtain said, "Didn't you hear your orders? Don't stop even if he dies." Oh, what the fuck? What the fuck? Oh, shit. Is this Jing Guanyao and Shui Yang doing it? Like, is Shui Yang the guy with the dagger that was leading them in, or was Jing Guanyao doing everything? Yeah, it's Shui Yang. Jeez Louise. Sect leader Ouyang couldn't help but say, no matter what, Jing Guanshan was his father by blood. If this is true, it's really too... When I saw he was dead, I knew it was over, Sisa said. We wouldn't be escaping that house either. And just as I suspected, every single one of my 20 or so sisters was killed once that night was done. No one else was spared. Why did they spare you and only you? Wei Wuxian asked. I don't know, Sisa answered. I pleaded and begged for my life, told them I didn't want the money anymore, and I'd never say a word about this. I never thought they'd actually would spare me. They took me to a house and locked me up for 11 years. Jesus. Oh my god, I'm only laughing because of how much we have talked about loving him, you know? Oh, he can do no wrong. He's fast. He did a little bit of wrong. It's only recently that I was saved by a stroke of luck and got out of there. Who saved you? Wei Wuxian asked. I don't know, Sisi replied. I never met the person who saved me face to face, but after my savior heard my story, they decided that they didn't want to allow that immoral hypocrite to keep lying to the world. Even if that man has hoodwinked the masses, my savior is determined to expose his deeds and bring justice to his victims. Those 20 or so poor sisters of mine may yet to be able to rest in peace. Do you have any evidence to back up what you've said? Wei Wuxian asked. Sisa hesitated for a moment, then said, no, but if I told a single lie, let my corpse rot without even a mat to wrap it in. Sect leader Yao immediately piped up. She spoke in such clear detail. She's definitely not lying. Lan Qiren's brow was locked in a tight furrow. He turned to the other woman. I seem to have met you before. With a panic-stricken look, the woman said, Most likely. Everyone was taken aback. Sisa was a street prostitute, so could this woman be one as well? How could Lan Qiren have met her before? I often accompanied my madame when the Qin clan of Lao Ling hosted symposiums, the woman said. The Qin clan of Lao Ling, a female cultivator asked. You're a maid from the Qin clan of Lao Ling? A more sharp-eyed female cultivator addressed her directly by name. You're Busao, Madame Qin's handmaid. Busao, right? The Madame Qin she spoke of was Qin Kangye's wife, or Qin Sanye's wife, and also the mother of Qin Su, Jing Guanyao's wife. Bizao nodded, but I'm no longer with the Qin clan. Okay, who is she? She's Madame Qin's handmaid. The mother of Qin's... Okay, so Jing Guanyao's wife, Qin Su's mom's handmaid. Greatly excited, sect leader Yao slapped the table and stood up. You have something to tell us too, right? With reddened eyes, Bisao said, the tale I've come here to tell took place a little earlier than the previous one, about 12 or 13 years ago. I served my madame for many years, and I watched my young miss grow up. Madame always cared deeply for Miss Su, but was in a bad mood in the days leading up to Miss Su's marriage. She had nightmares every night and would spontaneously weep during the day. I thought it was because her daughter was about to become married and she couldn't bear to part with her, so I kept comforting her, telling her that Miss Su's future husband, Lian Fenzun, Jing Guanyao, was a promising young man. He was gentle, considerate, and devoted. She would have a blessed life. But surprisingly, Madame only looked more upset at my words. When the wedding day neared, Madame suddenly told me one night that she was going to see Miss Su's future husband, and she was going immediately. She wanted me to accompany her in secret. I told her, why not summon him here instead? Why sneak out in the middle of the night to meet a young man? Imagine the horrible rumor if anyone were to find out. But Madame was determined, so I had no choice but to go with her. When we arrived, Madame told me to keep watch outside and not go in. I didn't hear anything, and I don't know exactly what she said to Jing Guanyao. All I know is that a few days later, Miss Su's wedding day was set, and Madame fainted the moment she saw the invitation. Even after the wedding, Madame remained in low spirits. Her distress made her fall ill, and her condition worsened. Right before she passed away, she couldn't take it anymore. She told me everything. Busao wept as she continued. Lan Fanzun, Jing Guanyao, and our Miss Su, how are they husband and wife? They are brother and sister. Oh, fuck. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh. Man. It's so fucked up. It's so fucked up. What? Even if heavenly thunder had struck Sword Hall at that moment, it would not have been as shockingly impactful as that single statement. Jinsu's pale face resurfaced in Wei Wuxian's mind. Oh, my poor madame, Bisao lamented. Thank you for donating, Homotron. Old sect leader Jin was an animal. He lusted after my madame's beauty and forced himself on her one night when he was drunk. How could madame have been capable of fighting off his advances? She didn't dare speak out after the fact either. She was too terrified to even try, since the master of the house was loyal to that man. Jing Guanshan didn't remember whose daughter Miss Su was, but my madame could never forget. She didn't dare go to Jing Guanshan, but knowing that Miss Su was in love with Jing Guanyao, she was conflicted for a very long time before she finally went to him in secret before the wedding day. She revealed some of the truth to him and begged him to think of some way to cancel the wedding, telling him they mustn't commit such a grave mistake. Who would have thought that Jing Guanyao would still marry Miss Su, despite knowing she was his younger half-sister? Even more frightening, he hadn't just married her, but also had a child with her! What an earth-shattering scandal! We're still missing a piece of the story, though. Oh. Voices rose in wave after wave of discussion, each surging louder than the last. How many years had old sect leader Qin served Jin Guanshan to think he'd even lay a hand on the wife of a long-time subordinate? That Jing Guanshan! In the end, there is no secret in the world that can be kept forever. If Jing Guanyao wanted to gain a firm foothold in the Jin clan of Lanling, he had to have a solid father-in-law, like Qin Sangye, to give him a boost. How could he not marry her? He's a maniac without equal in all the world! No wonder he told Jinsu that Asong had to die back when they were in the secret chamber. Wei Wuxian whispered, oh sorry, he whispered that. No wonder he told Jinsu that Asong had to die back when they were in the secret chamber. Wei Wuxian whispered to Lan Wangji. A few others in Sword Hall also thought of Asong. Knowing this, I would wager his son was not actually assassinated by any outside party, and that he did the deed with his own hands, sect leader Yao said. How so? In all likelihood, a child born to close siblings will be dull-witted, sect leader Yao analyzed. Jin Rusong died when he was a few years old, coincidentally, right around the time when a child would start their schooling. While no one would notice anything amiss when he was extremely young, the ways in which he was different from ordinary people would be exposed as he grew older. Though no one would immediately suspect blood ties between the parents, Jing Guanyao searing a feeble-minded child would inevitably cause others to gossip and criticize, to say the child only turned out that way because he has the filthy blood of a prostitute running in his veins. Oh. The crowd felt this made great sense. Sect leader Yao is so sharp. Sect leader Yao added, beside, the one who poisoned Jing Rusong just so happened to be a family head who opposed Jing Guanyao's construction of the observation towers. Can there be such a coincidence? He sneered. In any case, he had no need for a son who was very possibly an idiot. Kill Jin Rusong, frame that family head for it, and openly crusade against the clan who refused to yield him in the name of avenging his son. Although it was cold-blooded, he killed two birds with one stone. What a truly devious ploy, Lian Fanzun. Damn. Wei Wuxian turned to Bu Sao. On the night of the recent symposium at Golden Carp Tower, did you meet with Qin Su? Bu Sao was taken aback. Wei Wuxian continued to probe. That night in Fragrance Hall, Qin Su and Jing Guanyao had an argument. She said she'd met with someone who told her something and given her a letter. And also, this meant someone would never lie to her. Was it you? It was me, Bu Sao confirmed. You guarded the secret for so many years, Wei Wuxian said. Why did you decide to tell her so suddenly? And why the equally sudden decision to reveal it to us? Because, Bu Sao began, I had to let Miss Su know what kind of person her husband is, and I didn't want to make it public at first. But then, Miss Su inexplicably committed suicide at Golden Carp Tower. I must expose this beast in human clothing and get justice for my madame as well as my young miss, who I watched grow up. Wei Wuxian smiled. But did you never consider the blow you would deal her by revealing the truth to her? Or are you really that clueless? Qin Su committed suicide specifically because you told her about this. Bu Sao started. I don't agree with you, Sect Leader Yao said with displeasure. Are you saying hiding the truth is the right thing to do? Someone immediately spoke up in agreement. You can't throw blame around like that. Sigh, Madame Jin. Qin Su was simply too fragile. Poor Qin Su, several older female cultivators agreed. I even envied her once. What blessed fortune, I thought. Born into a good family, married a good man, the one and only mistress of Golden Carp Tower, with a husband who was wholeheartedly devoted to her. Who knew that? Tisk tisk. Things that seem beautiful on the surface are always riddled with flaws beneath. There's nothing to envy at all, the wife of the cultivators present commented in an aloof manner. Qin Su probably chose to kill herself because she couldn't endure this kind of gossip, Wei Wuxian thought to himself. It sounds like sympathy on the surface, but really it's just gloating. He looked down suddenly, noticing a bracelet of jade and gold on Bu Sao's wrist. It was of excellent quality, certainly not something a handmaid could afford. Nice bracelet you got there, he said with a smile. Bu Sao hurriedly pulled down her sleeves and lowered her head, saying nothing. But, Ni Huaisang said blankly, who exactly sent these two here? Why dwell on this, Sect Leader Yao said. No matter who he is, we can be sure of one thing. He is a righteous man who is definitely on our side. Cheers of agreement instantly rang out. That's right! But Wei Wuxian said, Miss Sisa's savior is certainly no ordinary man. He's rich and has a lot of free time on his hands. But righteous? Who knows? Many of the details are dubious, Lan Wangji said. If Wei Wuxian had been the one to utter those words, not many people would have paid him much mind. But since the speaker was Lan Wangji, the crowd immediately quieted down. Dubious in what way? Lan Qiren asked. Too many ways, Wei Wuxian replied. For instance, Jing Guanyao is vicious and ruthless, so why did he kill 20 people but spare Sisa? We have a witness, but where is the material evidence? He kept voicing dissenting opinions, which sent him at odds with the mounting public indignation. Some people present were already showing signs of displeasure. The net of heaven is vast, but it lets nothing through, Sect Leader Yao declared in a booming voice. Wei Wuxian smiled at this and said no more. He was aware no one would listen to what he had to say right now, and no one would carefully consider his doubts. If he said any more, they'd probably start targeting him again. Had he been the person he was a decade ago, he would have simply ignored them and said his piece anyway, forcing them to listen whether they wanted to or not. But Wei Wuxian no longer had any interest in stealing the limelight. Wave after wave of condemnation crashed over the room, each higher and louder than the last. I can't believe this man is so ungrateful! That maniac! The words ungrateful and maniac had been almost synonymous with Wei Wuxian's name for more than a decade, so when he heard them uttered, he thought at first they were cursing him again. It was a while before he realized they weren't. The people doing the cursing were doing the same, as was the vocabulary that they used. But the subject of their abuse was different, and he was unaccustomed to the change in targets. Following right after, someone said, in the past, Jing Guanyao climbed to the top one step at a time, only by integrating himself with Qi Fengzhen and Zewu Zhen. How else could the son of a prostitute sit in his seat today? To think he would murder Qi Fengzhen so viciously, and Zewu Zhen is in his clutches right now. I just hope nothing bad happens to him. It's like, society. At first, none of them had believed Ni Mingjue's death and dismemberment had anything to do with Jing Guanyao, nor had they believed his involvement with the corpse sieging and the burial mounds, but now they suddenly did. It wasn't just his sworn brothers. His blood brothers got it even worse. He spent the last few years before Jing Guanchan's death busily clearing the land of his father's illegitimate sons for fear that someone would suddenly pop out of nowhere and challenge him for the position. Mo Shanyu was probably one of the lucky ones. Had he not gone crazy and been booted back home, he would likely have ended up disappearing like the others. He must have had something to do with Jin Sizhuan's death too. Anyone here still remember Xiaoqing Chen? Bright moon, cool breeze, ever-distant Xiaoqing Chen? And the case of the Chang clan of Duiyang. Lian Fenzun was the one who did all he could to preserve the life of the culprit, Shui Yang. Didn't many clans invite Xiaoqing Chen Daozhang to be their guest cultivator when he first descended from the mountain? The Jin clan of Lan Ling certainly did, but he politely turned them down. They were rather full of themselves at the time, though, weren't they? Being rejected by a minor Taoist cultivator was a loss of face. That old grudge must have been one of the reasons the Jin clan of Lan Ling later protected Shui Yang. At any rate, they just wanted to see Xiaoqing Chen's story come to a tragic end. Ha! Okay, so they're saying Jing Guanyao was nice to Shui Yang. And Xiaoqing Chen didn't want to go be the guest cultivator at the Jin clan. Being rejected by a minor Taoist cultivator was a loss of face. That old grudge must have been one of the reasons the Jin clan of the Lan Ling later protected Shui Yang. Bah! Who do you think they are, making you pay if you don't join them? Alas, what a pity. I had the privilege of witnessing Xiaoqing Chen Daozhang in his full glory during a night hunt. Shuanghua was a sword that shook the world. Jing Guanyao later got rid of Shui Yang. What a perfect example of dog biting dog. I heard Jing Guanyao didn't go undercover in the Wen clan of Qishan with honest intentions. He planned to stay with the Wen clan if the Sunsha campaign did not go well, being Wen Rohan's toady and helping him do his evil deeds. But if the Wens fell from power, he would double-cross them and play the hero. Wen Rohan's probably rolling in his grave. He considered Jing Guanyao his trusted aide and trained him as such. Most of Jing Guanyao's sword techniques were taught to him by Wen Rohan. That's nothing. I heard Qi Fengzhen's surprise attack on the Wens failed because he deliberately provided fake intel. I'll share a secret too. Wasn't the money and material for the construction of his observation towers fleeced from various families? All the clans contributed manpower as well. I heard he always secretly kept about this much for himself. Oh, good lord, that much? How utterly shameless. Here I thought he genuinely wanted to accomplish something. All our good faith's gone to the dogs. Wow, that was the shit on Jing Guanyao train. Holy fuck. Oh, good lord. Wei Wuxian found this all a bit hilarious. If they're just rumors, why so quick to believe them? If they're secrets, how would you even know of them? This was not the first time these rumors had spread. While Jing Guanyao was in power, they had been suppressed so well that no one took them seriously. But tonight, the rumors all seemed to have become hard facts with irrefutable evidence. They became a solid foundation for Jing Guanyao's multitude of crimes, proving just how unscrupulous he was. So it seems that this Jin guy killed his father, his brothers, his wife, his son, his master, his friends, and even committed incest. How terrifying! The Jin clan of Lan Ling is arrogant and overbearing, and Jing Guanyao is even worse in his dictatorial ways. He never listens to what others has to say, and now he's ushered in this awful trend of decadence and rank pulling. Does he really think we'll tolerate this outrage forever? He probably felt threatened by the other clan's continued growth and expansion of power over the years. He feared he would be deposed, just like the Wen clan of Qishan was in the past, and that's why he decided to go all the way and wipe us out in one fell swoop, right? Sect leader Yao sneered. In that case, we'll make his worst fears come true. He smacked the table. We'll attack Golden Carp Tower. Amid the roaring cheers in the hall, Wei Wuxian thought, before today, this terrifying figure was still the Lan Fenzun whom everyone unanimously praised. Now in the course of just one day, everyone's baying for his blood. Suddenly, someone standing at the side of the room turned around. Mr. Wei, Jing Guanyao has the Yin Tiger Tally in his clutches. We're counting on you to deal with this. Huh? Wei Wuxian blurted. He hadn't expected anyone to take the initiative to talk to him, let alone so enthusiastically. What was more, they had even used Mr. rather than disparaging names like Traitor Wei, Wei Dog, or the like. He was a little stunned. Another clan leader chimed in as well. That's right, no one can rival the Yiling Patriarch in this area. Jing Guanyao bit off more than he can chew with this one, ha ha ha. For a moment, Wei Wuxian was left speechless. The last time the masses had heaped praise on him and fawned over him like this had been during the Sunshot campaign over a decade ago. Even though he'd managed to hang in there until someone else finally replaced him as public enemy #1, Wei Wuxian did not feel moved by the world finally accepting him. Even after all the bitterness he'd suffered, this did not taste sweet. He couldn't help but wonder, deep down, was it like this too back then? A bunch of them gathering somewhere to have a secret meeting, working themselves into a frenzy, then ultimately deciding to besiege the burial mounds? By the time the meeting ended, the Zheng clan of Yunmeng's banquet hall was prepared to receive them too. But when the feast began, there were 2 figures missing. One of the clan leaders wondered, why are Wei, the Yiling Patriarch, and Hangguanzhen missing? Jiang Cheng, sitting in the head seat, asked the guest cultivator beside him, where are they? After leaving the inner hall, the 2 gentlemen went to change clothes and stated they won't be joining the feast, the guest cultivator replied. One sec. I ship Jing Guanyao. Not sorry. Nope. Take that out. Freudian slip. I ship Jiang Cheng with this guy. His second, this guest cultivator. I've seen art of it. It's this random guest cultivator that seems to have all his answers. Jiang Cheng, sitting in the head seat, asked the guest cultivator beside him, where are they? After leaving the inner hall, the 2 gentlemen went to change clothes and stated they won't be joining the feast, the guest cultivator replied. Instead, they are going for a walk and will return later. Jiang Cheng snorted. Still the same old, no manners. His criticism seemed to include Lamonji, which made Lan Qiren appear displeased. If Lamonji was accused of having no manners, there was no such thing as manners in the world. At this thought, he gritted his teeth at Wei Wuxian once more. Jiang Cheng schooled his expression and addressed the room politely. Please begin your meal, everyone. I will invite them back later. And that's the end of that chapter. Is the next chapter their date? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay, let's read it. Part 3. Outside Lotus Pier, Lamonji let Wei Wuxian lead him on a leisurely stroll around the docks without even asking where they were going. There were several small food stalls at the docks. Wei Wuxian walked over to take a look and said with a smile, it was the right decision to not eat with the rest of them. Lanjan, come. These pancakes are delicious. I'll treat you. Can I have 2, please? The stall owner was all smiles as he wrapped up 2 pieces in grease-proof paper. Wei Wuxian was about to take them when he suddenly remembered he had no money on him. How was he going to treat Lanjan? However, Lamonji had already reached out, taken the food for him, and paid for it. Wow. Oops, sorry, Wei Wuxian said. Why does this always happen? It's like every time I want to treat you to something, it never works out. It is fine, Lamonji said. Wei Wuxian took a bite of his pancake. In the past, when I wanted something to eat on this side of the dock, I never had to pay for anything. I just took and ate whatever I pleased. Eat and go, grab and run. The stall owners would submit the tab to Jiang Shushu at the end of every month. Lan Wangji left a tiny half-moon gap on the round pancake in his hands and said quietly, "You do not have to pay now either." Oh. It's so cute. Ha 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 ha! Wei Wuxian hooted with laughter. He finished the pancake in quick bites and crumpled the greaseproof paper into a ball, tossing it up and down in his hand for fun. He looked around. There aren't many stalls left here. In the past, this place would be crowded with stalls selling all kinds of food no matter how late it was. Lots of people in Lotus Pier would come out at night just for midnight snacks. There were lots of boats, too. Just as many as the boats over at your place in Sai Town. There are far fewer now, he continued. Lanjan, you came too late. You didn't catch this place at its funnest and busiest. It is never too late, Lan Wangji said. Oh my god. Lan Wangji being like, it's not too late. It's not too late. God, he's so traumatized. Wei Wuxian laughed. Back when I was studying at the cloud recesses, I told you a few times to come have fun with me and Yunmeng, but you always ignored me. I should have been bossier and hauled you here outright. Why are you eating so slowly? Food's not good? Food is taken in silence, Lan Wangji said. Whenever he ate, he always chewed carefully and swallowed slowly. If he had to speak up, he first made sure that there was absolutely nothing in his mouth. Then I'll stop talking to you. Eat. I thought you didn't like it. I was even thinking of telling you to give me the rest, Wei Wuxian said. Another one, please, Lan Wangji said to the stall owner. In the end, as Wei Wuxian finished his third pancake, Lan Wangji was still slowly nibbling on his first. Wei Wuxian was leading him farther and farther away from Lotus Pier, pointing out this and that to everywhere they went. He really wanted to show Lan Wangji all the places that he'd grown up, played and run amok, to tell him of all the trouble he'd caused, the fights he'd fought, and the pheasants he'd caught. And then he wanted to observe the subtle changes in Lan Wangji's expression, anticipating each and every one of his reactions. Lanjan, Wei Wuxian called out. Look at me. Look at this tree. Lan Wangji finished his pancake, folded the greaseproof paper into a neat little square, and held it in his hand. He looked over to where Wei Wuxian was pointing. It was just an ordinary tree, with a straight trunk and branches stretching outward. It was likely several decades old. Wei Wuxian went up to the tree and circled it a couple times before he patted the trunk. I've climbed this tree before. You have climbed every tree we came across, Lan Wangji said. Oh my god. This tree is different, Wei Wuxian said. This is the first tree I climbed when I came to Lotus Pier, and I did it in the middle of the night. My Shijie came out with a lantern to look for me. She waited under the tree to catch me, scared that I'd fall. But how could those skinny arms of hers catch anything? So I still broke a leg. Lan Wangji glanced at his leg. Why were you climbing trees in the middle of the night? Wei Wuxian bent over with laughter. No reason. You know me. I just like fooling around in the middle of the night. Ha ha! After all these years, he still kept Jiang Cheng's secret. With that, he caught two branches and started to climb the tree. He leapt up with practiced ease, stopping only when he reached a spot near the top. Yeah, it was around here. He buried his face in a dense cluster of leaves for a long while before glancing down. His tone was loud and bright, and it seemed to be laced with a smile. I thought it was terrifyingly tall back then, but looking at it now, it actually doesn't seem all that high. The instant he hugged the tree, his eyes grew hot. His vision was already blurred when he looked down. Lan Wangji was standing beneath the tree, gazing up at him. He was also dressed in white. While he did not have a lantern with him, the moonlight that cascaded over him made his entire person seem bright and pure, like he was bathed in a soft glow. He tilted his head back to gaze at the treetop, his eyes fixed. He then took a few steps closer to the tree, looking as though he wanted to extend his arms. Suddenly, an unusually powerful urge jolted through Wei Wuxian's mind. He wanted to fall again, just as he had back then. Deep inside him, a voice whispered, "If he catches me, I'll..." At the last word, Wei Wuxian let go. Seeing him plunge without warning, Lan Wangji's eyes instantly widened. He dashed forward just in time to catch Wei Wuxian, or rather, for Wei Wuxian to throw himself into his arms. By all appearances, Lan Wangji was a well-bred and refined young master. Although he was slender, his strength was not to be underestimated. Not only were his arms astoundingly powerful, but his sturdy lower body gave him rock-solid balance. But this was a grown man who had jumped from a tree, after all. Even though he caught Wei Wuxian, he staggered a step back before he steadied himself and stood firm. Just as Lamonji was about to release him, he realized that Wei Wuxian's arms were wound tight around his neck, keeping him in place. Oh my god. Oh my god. CSCL, thank you for donating. CSCL says, for my birthday, Saturday. Oh, happy early birthday. And one of the two of my favorite parts. If he catches me, I'll... Peak romance. Yes! If he catches me, what? What was he gonna say? What was he gonna think? He couldn't see Wei Wuxian's face. Wei Wuxian couldn't see his either, but there was no need. He closed his eyes and breathed in deep, filling his lungs with Lamonji's cool, refreshing sandalwood scent. Oh. Thanks, he said in a hoarse voice. He wasn't scared of falling. He had fallen many times over the years, but hitting the ground still hurt. Here's a picture. Very sweet. How wonderful it would be if there was someone there to catch him. Oh, I love that. I love that so much. Hearing his thanks, Lamonji's body seemed to freeze for a moment. The hand he'd been about to place on Wei Wuxian's back paused briefly before withdrawing. After a moment of silence, Lamonji answered, "You are welcome." They remained embracing for a while. Once Wei Wuxian separated from him, straightened up, and got back on his feet, he was back to his usual self again. As if nothing had happened, he announced, "Let's go back." "No more sightseeing?" Lamonji asked. "We're still sightseeing," Wei Wuxian responded, "but there's nothing more to see outside. There's only wilderness ahead, and we've seen enough of that over the past few days. Let's go back to Lotus Pier. I'll show you one last place." The two returned to the docks and re-entered the main gates of Lotus Pier. When they crossed the drilling grounds and passed a small, resplendent building, Wei Wuxian paused and did a double take, wearing an odd expression. "What is the matter?" Lamonji asked. Wei Wuxian shook his head. "It's nothing. The house I used to live in was here, but now it's gone. Torn down, just as I thought. These are all newly built." They passed one magnificent building after another until they came to a quiet spot in the depths of Lotus Pier, standing before a black octagonal hall. Wei Wuxian pushed the door open gently, as if afraid of startling someone, and walked inside. Row after row of memorial tablets were neatly set up in the hall, placed front and center. This was the Jiang clan of Yunmeng's ancestral hall. Wei Wuxian fetched a prostration cushion and took 3 incense sticks from the altar. He lit them with the candle and struck them in the bronze censer before the memorial tablets. Then he kneeled and kowtowed thrice to 2 particular memorial tablets. "I used to be a frequent guest here," he said to Lamonji. With a look of understanding, Lamonji said, "Punishment by kneeling?" "How did you know?" Wei Wuxian marveled. "It certainly was. Madame Yu used to punish me like that almost every other day." Lamonji nodded. "I have heard a little." "How is it a little if word managed to spread all the way from Yunmeng to Gusu?" Wei Wuxian said. "But to be honest, I've never seen a woman as bad-tempered as Madame Yu. Even after all these years, she'd ordered me to march the ancestral hall and kneel over every little thing. Ha ha ha." But other than that, Madame Yu had never genuinely done anything to harm him. He suddenly remembered that this was the ancestral hall, and Madame Yu's memorial tablet was right in front of him. He hurriedly apologized. Sorry. To make up for shooting his mouth off, he lit another 3 incense sticks. He was just holding them above his head and mentally apologizing when a shadow fell over him. Wei Wuxian cocked his head to look and found Lamonji has also kneeled beside him. Since he had entered an ancestral hall, propriety demanded he pay his respects. Lamonji took 3 incense sticks and pushed up his sleeves to light them using a red candle at the side of the altar. His movements were impeccable, his expression solemn. Wei Wuxian tilted his head and watched him, the corner of his lips lifting slightly despite himself. Lamonji glanced at him. "Incense ash," he reminded. The 3 incense sticks in, Wei Wuxian's hands had been burning for a while, and the accumulated ash on top was about to fall off. Still, Wei Wuxian was reluctant to stick them in the censer. "Let's do it together," he said instead, face serious. Lamonji did not object. With 3 incense sticks, each in hand, both kneeling before the rows of memorial tablets, they bowed together to Zhang Fengmian and Yu Ziyuan's name. Once, twice. Their movements were completely in sync. "It's done," Wei Wuxian said, before solemnly tucking the incense sticks into the bronze censer. He peered at Lan Wangji, who was kneeling in a prim and proper manner beside him. He put his palms together and said silently, "Zhang Shushu, Madame Yu, it's me again, here to disturb your peace. I really wanted to bring this person here to show him to you, though. Please consider those 2 bows our wedding vows to the heaven, the earth, the father, and the mother. So please, help me lock this guy down first. Let me owe you the 3rd and final wedding vow for now. I'll find a chance to make good on it in the future." Help me lock this guy down. That's hilarious. I love that. I love that so much. Yeah, he actually did say that. No, I didn't make that up. He said this is his entire internal thoughts. "Zhang Shushu, Madame Yu, it's me again, here to disturb your peace. I really wanted to bring this person here to show him to you, though. Please consider those 2 vows our wedding vows to the heaven, the earth, the father, and the mother. So please, help me lock this guy down first. Let me owe you the 3rd and final wedding vow for now. I'll find a chance to make good on it in the future." A snort suddenly echoed from behind them. Wei Wuxian was in the middle of praying, and the sound startled him. His eyes flew open, and he looked back, only to see Jiang Cheng standing in the open space outside the ancestral hall, his arms crossed. "Help me lock this fine man down." Do you think that when he was like, if Lan Wangji catches me, I'm gonna marry him. If Lan Wangji fucking catches me right now, I'm gonna marry him. And then he caught him, so he's like, well, I know where to bring you. I'm bringing you to the ancestral hall, and we will be wed. Wei Wuxian, it seems you really don't consider yourself an outsider, coming and going as you please, and bringing people with you too, Jiang Cheng said coolly. Do you still remember who this house belongs to, or who its master is? Seeing they had been discovered by Jiang Cheng despite avoiding him earlier, Wei Wuxian knew there was no escaping a bout of verbal abuse. Not wanting to start an argument, he said, I didn't take Hengguanzhen to any other restricted areas of Lotus Pier. I just came to pay my respects and offer some incense to Zhang Shushu and Madame Yu. It's done. We're leaving now. If you're leaving, then please go as far away as possible, Jiang Cheng said. Don't let me hear or see you fooling around in Lotus Pier again. Wei Wuxian's eyebrow twitched. He saw Lan Wangji grip the hilt of his sword and quickly reached out, pressing his hands down to stay the motion. Watch your words, Lan Wangji said to Jiang Cheng. Oh yeah! Yeah! Seems to me you two should watch your behavior instead, Jiang Cheng rebutted brusquely. Wei Wuxian's eyebrows twitched even harder. His sense of foreboding intensified. Hengguanzhen, let's go, he said to Lan Wangji. He turned around and kowtowed a few more times in earnest to Zhang Fengmian and Madame Yu. Only then did he stand together with Lan Wangji. Jiang Cheng didn't forbid him from kowtowing, but he didn't hold back his sarcasm either. You certainly do need to kneel before them, to apologize for showing up in front of them for no reason, sullying their eyes and violating their peace. Wei Wuxian glanced at him. I'm just offering some incense, okay? He said calmly. Offering incense, Jiang Cheng said. Wei Wuxian, do you have no self-awareness? You were expelled from my family a long time ago, and yet you bring riffraff here to offer incense to my parents? Wei Wuxian had already stepped halfway past him to leave, but when he heard this, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. Make yourself clear, he said darkly. Who is this riffraff you're referencing to? you're referring to. Had he been alone, he could have pretended to not hear a thing Jiang Cheng said, but Lan Wangji was with him. No matter what, he didn't want Lan Wangji to suffer Jiang Cheng's increasingly ugly words of aggression. You're so forgetful, Jiang Cheng said derisively. What do I mean by riffraff? Well, let me remind you. All of Lotus Pier perished, including my parents, because you played the hero to save that Lanar Gongza next to you. But no, that wasn't enough. You had to go back for a second round. You just had to save those Wen dogs, and you dragged my JJ and the others into your mess. What a great man you are. Even better, you're so magnanimous that you brought these two to Lotus Pier, let the Wen dogs wander around in front of our gates, and escorted Lanar Gongza here to offer incense. You're deliberately trying to upset them and me. Wei Wuxian, he continued, who do you think you are? Who gave you the right to bring others into my family's ancestral hall as you please? Wei Wuxian had long known that Jiang Cheng wanted to settle this score with him. Jiang Cheng held Wei Wuxian responsible for the destruction of Lotus Pier. Not just him, he blamed Wen Ning and Lan Wangji too. And now all three of the people he refused to extend any courtesy to were strutting around together right before his eyes. They had even invited themselves to Lotus Pier. He had probably been absolutely livid for a while now, which was another reason why Wei Wuxian had wanted to do this behind his back. He had nothing to say in his own defense when Jiang Cheng blamed him, but there was no way he could tolerate Lan Wangji being vilified. Jiang Cheng, Wei Wuxian said, listen to what you're saying. Is it even fit for hearing? Don't forget your status. You're a family head after all, and yet you just insulted a distinguished cultivator of a prominent cultivation clan right in front of Zhang Shushu and everyone else's memorial tablets. What happened to your upbringing? Where are your manners? He meant to remind Jiang Cheng that he ought to show some respect to Lan Wangji, but to Jiang Cheng's sensitive ears, it sounded like Wei Wuxian was insinuating he wasn't qualified to be the head of the family. Immediately, darkness touched his countenance. Surprisingly, his expression bore some resemblance to Madame Yu's look of fury. Who exactly is the one humiliating my parents in front of their memorial tablets? He snapped. Please recall whose family home you're in. Get it through your thick skull. It's bad enough that you were being so shamelessly touchy-feely outside. Don't come to my ancestral hall and fool around in front of my parents' memorial tablets. They watched you grow up, for whatever that's worth. Even I feel embarrassed for you. Homophobic Jiang Cheng! Homophobic Jiang Cheng! Oh, shit! Never in his wildest dreams had Wei Wuxian imagined such a heavy blow would strike him, let alone catch him so off guard. Both shocked and furious, he bellowed, "Shut up!" Jiang Cheng pointed outside. Go outside and fool around however you please, if that's what you want to do. Whether under a tree or on a boat, whether you want to hug or do whatever else. Get the hell out of my house and get the hell out of my sight! Wow, he really had seen it all. He's really been watching all of this. Oh my gosh. Wei Wuxian's heart stopped for a second when he heard "under a tree" mentioned. Could Jiang Cheng have seen him pounce into Lan Wangji's arms? He had guessed correctly. Jiang Cheng had indeed personally gone out to look for Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji. He had trailed them, following the directions given by the vendor at the dock. A voice deep inside him seemed to tell him where Wei Wuxian would go, and he caught up with them after searching for a while. But when he found them, he was greeted by the sight of Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji tightly embracing under a tree, loath to part, even as the minutes ticked by. Goosebumps had broken out all over Jiang Cheng's body right then and there. Although he had once maliciously speculated about the relationship between Lan Wangji and the person he'd thought at the time was Mo Shanyu, those had just been words meant to embarrass Wei Wuxian, not genuine suspicion. He had never thought Wei Wuxian would have such questionable involvement with men. After all, they had grown up together, and Wei Wuxian had never expressed interest in such things. Rather, he had always been ardently fond of young, pretty girls. It seemed even less possible for Lan Wangji to have such tendencies. He was famous for his asceticism, and appeared uninterested in men and women alike. But no matter how Jiang Cheng looked at it, the way they hugged wasn't normal. At least it certainly wasn't something shared between normal friends or brothers. He immediately recalled that Wei Wuxian had stuck like glue to Lan Wangji ever since his return, and also that Lan Wangji's attitude towards him was the complete opposite of how it had been in the past. Jiang Cheng was immediately certain they really were in that kind of relationship. Oh, man. He couldn't turn around and go back, and he didn't want to step forward and address the two of them either, so he stayed hidden and followed them. Every movement, every look they shared, they all inevitably took on different significance under his gaze. For a moment, the feeling of disbelief, oddness, and slight disgust added up to something that eclipsed even his hatred. When Wei Wuxian had brought Lan Wangji into the ancestral hall, his pent-up fury had reawakened, engulfing his sanity and sense of decorum. Wei Wuxian looked as though he was forcibly holding something back. Zheng Wanyan, you, apologize right now. Apologize? Why should I? For stumbling on your rendezvous? Jiang Cheng sneered with biting sarcasm. Han Guanzhen and I are just friends, Wei Wuxian fumed. What kind of relationship do you think we have? I'm warning you. You better apologize right now. Don't make me kick your ass. Lan Wangji's expression froze at this. Poor Lan Wangji in this moment. Like, oh my god. Just as you think. Just as you fucking think. We're making some progress. Homotron, thank you for your donation. Jiang Cheng, damn, my brother's evil and gay? Pick a struggle. True. Wei Wuxian, you just married this guy in your mind. I feel so bad for Lan Wangji as well. Oh my god. Jiang Cheng, on the other hand, scoffed. Then I've never seen a friend like that in my life. And you're warning me? On what grounds? If either of you possessed even the slightest bit of shame, you wouldn't have come here. Wei Wuxian saw the change in Lan Wangji's expression and thought that Jiang Cheng's words had stung him. No, girl, it was your words. He was so angry that his entire body shook. He didn't even dare imagine what Lan Wangji thought of being insulted like that. His fury blazed brighter, the blood brushed to his head, and he flung out a talisman. Are you done? The talisman was fast and merciless. It struck Jiang Cheng on his right shoulder and exploded with a thunderous bang, causing him to stagger. He hadn't expected Wei Wuxian to strike so suddenly, and his own spiritual powers had yet to fully recover. As a result, the blast caught him head-on and his shoulder began to bleed. Disbelief flashed across his face, and Zidian shot from his finger, sizzling and flashing haphazardly as it lashed out. Lan Wangji's Bishan left its sheath to block the attack, and with that, the three of them were fighting in front of the ancestral hall. Jiang Cheng's eyes were bloodshot. Fine, he growled. You want to fight? Then bring it on. You think I'm afraid of you both? Wei Wuxian haphazardly warded off a few blows, then abruptly came to his senses. This was the ancestral hall of the Zheng clan of Young Mun. He had just been kneeling here, praying for the blessings of Zheng Fengmian and Madame Yu, and now he was attacking their son right in front of them, together with Lan Wangji. It was like he'd been doused in icy water. His vision went first dark, then white. Lan Wangji glanced at him before whirling around to grab his shoulder. Jiang Cheng's expression changed too. He retracted his whip, then blinked, looking alert. Wei Ying? Lan Wangji called out. His low voice buzzed and reverberated incessantly in Wei Wuxian's head. Wei Wuxian wondered if his ears had been damaged. What's wrong? He felt something creeping down his face and raised his hand to touch it, only to come away with the palm covered in red. The dizziness was accompanied by fresh blood trickling from his mouth and nose, dripping to the ground. This time, he was finally not faking it. Wei Wuxian grabbed Lan Wangji's elbow and managed with some difficulty to stand. Seeing that Lan Wangji's newly changed white clothes were stained with his blood once more, he consciously reached out to wipe them. An untimely worry echoed in his mind. I got his clothes dirty again. How do you feel? Lan Wangji demanded urgently. Wei Wuxian replied without answering the question. Lan Zhan, let's leave. Leave right now and never come back. All right, Lan Wangji said. Lan Wangji had no intention of continuing to wrangle with Jiang Cheng. Without a word, he lifted Wei Wuxian on his back and made to leave. Jiang Cheng was both shocked and suspicious, shocked by the disturbing sight of Wei Wuxian bleeding so suddenly from his 7 orifices, and suspicious that this was an act he was putting on to escape. After all, Wei Wuxian often used such tricks to prank others. Seeing as they were both about to leave, he barked. Hold it right there! Lan Wangji fumed. Get lost! Oh, Lan Wangji... Seeing as they were both about to leave, he barked, Hold it right there! Lan Wangji fumed. Get lost! Nice! With his words came an abruptly raging Bishan. Immediately after, a flash of purple lightning hurtled forth as well. Both divine weapons struck each other, letting loose a long, ear-piercing yowl. The impact of this noise gave Wei Wuxian a splitting headache, and like a flickering candle flame that was finally extinguished, his eyes closed and his head drooped low. Tiercella, thank you for your donation. Maybe Wei said just friends because they didn't do the third bow yet. That's right. That's right. Sensing the sudden weight on his shoulder, Lan Wangji promptly extracted himself from the melee to fight for his breathing. To feel for his breathing. With Bishen's master no longer supplying it with power, Zidian immediately advanced towards them. Jiang Cheng, who didn't actually want to injure Lan Wangji, instantly pulled back his strike, but it seemed it was still too late. Just then, a figure leapt down from nowhere and stood between them. This uninvited guest, who had inserted themselves into a fight, was Wen Ning. Jiang Cheng immediately flew into a rage. Who said you could enter Lotus Pier? How dare you? He could tolerate anyone else, if only barely, but he could never tolerate this Wen dog who had thrust his fist through Jin Sizhuan's heart and destroyed his elder sister's happiness and life. Simply laying eyes on him made Jiang Cheng want to kill him for personal satisfaction alone. To think he'd dare set foot on Lotus Pier's soil, he was clearly asking to die. Wen Ning still felt guilty about those 2 lost lives, as well as many other things. He feared Jiang Cheng, as a result, and always made a conscious effort to avoid him. But now he was facing him directly, to shield Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji. He took the brutal lash of the whip, and though a horrifying scorch mark raked across his chest, he did not shrink back. Only when Lan Wangji determined that Wei Wuxian had merely fallen temporarily unconscious due to exhaustion and rage did he tear his gaze away. He saw Wen Ning holding something out to Jiang Cheng. In Jiang Cheng's right hand, Zidian shone so bright it was almost white. The lightning flared, just as his murderous intent did the same. Jiang Cheng was so furious he had to laugh. What do you want? Wen Ning was holding Wei Wuxian's sword, Suibian. Wei Wuxian had found it a hassle to carry around during their journey, so he dumped it here, there, and everywhere before finally dumping it on Wen Ning for safekeeping. Holding it up, Wen Ning said, "Pull it out." It's fucking happening! Oh my god! His tone was resolute and his gaze firm. It was completely unlike his habitually absent-minded blank expression. I'm warning you, Jiang Cheng said. If you don't want to be reduced to ashes again, take your feet off the soil of Lotus Pier this instant! Scram! Wen Ning was almost jabbing the hilt of the sword into Jiang Cheng's chest. He raised his voice and ordered him again. Do it! Pull it out! Jiang Cheng bristled with anger and irritation. His heart pounded wildly for no reason he could identify. Inexplicably, he did as Wen Ning ordered and grabbed hold of Suibian's hilt to yank it from its simple, unadorned sheath. And the snow-white blade slipped free, bright with a blinding sheen. Jiang Cheng stared down at the glistening longsword in his hand for a long time before his mind returned to him. This sword was Suibian. This was Wei Wuxian's sword. It had been taken by the Jin clan of Lanling after the siege of the burial mounds as a trophy for their collection. No one had ever been able to unsheath it after that, since it had long since sealed itself of its own accord. How had he managed to pull it out? Had the sword's seal been lifted? It's not that the sword's seal has been lifted, Wen Ning said, reading his thoughts. It's still sealed, even now. If you sheath it and order someone else to draw it, they won't be able to, no matter who they are. Jiang Cheng's mind and face were both racked with confusion. Then why was I able to pull it out? Because the sword recognizes you as Wei Gongse, Wen Ning answered. Lan Wangji stood up, lifting an unconscious Wei Wuxian on his back. What do you mean it recognizes me as Wei Wuxian? Jiang Cheng snapped. How? Why me? Because the golden core presently channeling spiritual power in your body is his! Wen Ning snapped back even harsher. Oh my god! Ah! Oh my god, he gave him his fucking core, man! That's why he never used his sword again. Ah. Jiang Cheng was stunned for a good while before he shouted at him, "What nonsense are you spouting?" However, Wen Ning looked quite composed. I'm not spouting nonsense. Shut up! My golden core was restored by Baoshan Sanren, Wenning finished for him. How did you know? Jiang Cheng snapped. He even told you about that? No, Wenning answered. Wei Gongsun never spoke a word of it to anyone else. I saw it with my own eyes. Ah! Oh my god! Jiang Cheng's eyes were bloodshot as he barked a laugh. You're lying! You were there? How could you have been there? I was the only one who went up the mountain. You couldn't have followed me. I didn't follow you, Wenning said. I was on that mountain all along. Veins bulged on Jiang Cheng's forehead. You're lying! Hear me out, and then you can decide for yourself if I'm lying, Wenning said. When you went up the mountain, you had a strip of black cloth covering your eyes and a long tree branch in your hand. When you were almost at the top of the mountain, you entered a stone forest. It took you nearly an hour to find your way through it. The muscles on Jiang Cheng's face twisted slightly. Then you heard the sound of a bell that startled a flock of birds into flight, Wenning continued. You gripped the tree branch in your hand tightly like you were holding a sword. When the bell stopped sounding, the tip of a sword pressed against the center of your chest. You heard a woman's voice ordering you not to advance. Jiang Cheng started shaking. Wenning raised his voice. You immediately stopped in your tracks, looking very nervous, even vaguely excited. This woman kept her voice very low. She asked you who you were and how you found your way here. You answered. Shut up! Jiang Cheng bellowed. Wenning shouted over him. You answered that you were Wei Ying, the son of Sanren. You told her about the slaughter of your clan, the chaos in Lotus Pier, and how your golden core was dissolved by core melting hand, Wen Julio. The woman repeatedly asked you some questions about your parents. When you answered her final question, you suddenly caught a whiff of a strange fragrance and lost consciousness. Jiang Cheng looked like he wanted to cover his own ears. How do you know? How can you know all of this? Didn't I already tell you? Wenning said. I was there. Not only was I there, but Wei Gongsun was too. And it wasn't just us. My JJ, Wen Qing, was there as well. Or rather, it was just the three of us waiting for you on that mountain. Sect Leader Zheng, did you honestly think that was where Baoshan Sanren lives in seclusion? Even Wei Gongsun doesn't know such a place could be. His mother, Sangza Sanren, never divulged any information about her teacher to such young children. The mountain was just some barren hill in Yiling. Jiang Cheng screamed himself hoarse, repeating the same word over and over like he was trying to cover up his sudden death of vocabulary with fearsome ferocity. Nonsense! Fucking enough! If that's the case, then why was my golden core restored? Who do you think gave you the golden core? Your golden core was never restored, Wenning said. It was completely dissolved by Wen Julio. The reason you thought it was restored was because my JJ, Wen Qing, the best doctor of the Wen clan of Qishan, cut Wei Gongsun's golden core from his body and used it to replace yours. Jiang Cheng's face went blank for a second. Replaced mine with his? That's right, Wenning said. Why do you think he never used Swabian again, and never carried his sword with him when he went out? Was it really because of some youthful indiscretion? Did he really enjoy it when others spoke ill of him behind his back or to his face, saying he was rude and had a poor upbringing? It was because bringing it along would be pointless. You see, if he brought his sword along when he was invited to those banquets and night hunts, there would inevitably be someone wanting to duel or spar with him for whatever reason. Without his golden core, he had no spiritual power. If he drew his sword, he wouldn't last long at all. Oh, man. What the fuck is Jiang Cheng supposed to do at this point? Jiang Cheng stood dumbly, rooted to the spot. He looked queasy, and his lips quivered. He even forgot to use Zidian as he suddenly dropped Swabian to the ground and struck Wenning on the chest with his hand. Lum 1G in the back hearing all this like... You're lying, he bellowed. Wenning was forced a couple steps back from the blow. He picked up Swabian from the ground, sheathed it, and pushed it against Jiang Cheng's chest. Take it. Jiang Cheng unconsciously took the sword. He didn't move, but looked at a loss as his gaze turned toward Wei Wuxian. He would have been fine if he hadn't looked, but when he did, Wei Wuxian's despondent expression and ghastly pale face, with blood still gathered at the corner of his mouth, was like a hammer smashing his heart. Moreover, Lamonji's gaze chilled him so keenly he felt like he had plunged into a frozen cavern. Take that sword and go to the banquet hall, or the drilling grounds, anywhere, Wen Ning said. Order everyone you come across to pull it from its sheath and see if anyone can. Then you'll see if I'm lying. Sect Leader Jiang, you are such a competitive person. All your life you've been competing with and comparing yourself to others. But know this, you could never have compared to him. Oh, fuck. Oh my god, Wen Ning just tossing all the salt on the wounds. Man, this is why he did the demonic cultivation. It was his only fucking option, right? Thank you for donating, Orion. Right? Like, what do you do? Like, he's already been so mean to Wei Wuxian at this point, man. Like, how do you just say the sorry and never be able to ever make it up to him, you know? Jiang Cheng lashed out at Wen Ning with a kick. He ran, stumbling in the direction of the banquet hall, Swabian in his hand. He howled as he ran, looking utterly crazed. Jiang Cheng running, howling. Ugh. Poor guy. His kick sent Wen Ning crashing into a tree in the courtyard. Wen Ning slowly stood up, then hastily turned to look at the other two. Lamonji's radiantly handsome face was pale beyond belief. His expression was ice-cold and grave. He cast another glance at the Jiang clan of Yunmeng's ancestral hall, then adjusted his grip on Wei Wuxian, who was still on his back. Once he had secured his hold, he walked in the other direction without looking back. Lan Gongzi, Wen Ning called out. Where are you going? See, he didn't stutter at all during that, like, big monologue, but now he is. Lamonji paused before the steps. Earlier, he wanted me to take him away. Wen Ning hurried to catch up with him and followed him through Lotus Pier's main gates. They went to the docks to look around. The various boats they had taken to get here had all left after delivering them to their destination. Only a few old, unattended ferry boats remained. They were long and thin, shaped like willow leaves, and capable of carrying 7 or 8 people. Both ends of the boats were slightly upturned, and there were 2 oars set at an angle on the stern. With Wei Wuxian on his back, Lamonji stepped onto a boat without hesitation. Wen Ning hurriedly leapt onto the stern and grabbed the oars of his own initiative. He paddled a couple of times, and the ferry boat steadily moved a few meters away from the docks. It didn't take long for them to drift toward the center of the river, following the current. Lamonji let Wei Wuxian lean against him as he fed him 2 pills. Once he made sure he'd swallowed them properly, he took out a handkerchief and carefully wiped away the blood on his face. Suddenly, Wen Ning's nervous voice rang out. Lan Gongzi. What is the matter? Lamonji asked. The tough front Wen Ning had displayed in front of Jiang Cheng had long since vanished without a trace. Steeling himself, he said, Please don't tell Wei Gongzi that I revealed he extracted his golden core, for now. He warned me very sternly to never say a word about it to anyone. I probably won't be able to hide it for long, but... After a moment of silence, Lamonji said, You can rest assured. Wen Ning looked as though he'd breathed a sigh of relief. Although the dead had no breath to expel, he said sincerely, Thank you, Lan Gongzi. Oh, poor Wen Ning. Lamonji shook his head. Thank you for speaking up for me and my JJ back then, at Golden Carp Tower, Wen Ning continued. I've never forgotten it. I lost control afterward, and I really am very sorry. Lamonji did not respond. And more than that, thank you for caring for Ayuan all these years, Wen Ning went on. Lamonji raised his eyes to look at him. Wenning kept going. I thought everyone in our family was dead, that not a single person was spared. I really didn't expect Ayuan to still be alive. He looked so much like my cousin when he was in his 20s. He hid in a hole in a tree for too long, Lamaji said. He ran a high fever and was ill for a time. Wenning nodded. I knew he must have gotten sick. He doesn't remember anything from when he was little. I chatted with him for a long time, and he keeps talking about you, he continued, a little dejectedly. In the past, he used to talk about Wei Gongzi. He never talked about me, anyway. You did not tell him, Lamaji observed. You mean about his past? Wenning asked. No, I didn't. He turned his back to the two behind him as he worked hard to row the boat, he said. He's doing very well now. Learning too much, remembering such heavy things, will make his life harder. He has to learn eventually, Lamaji said. Ayuan, Ayuan, land situates Ayuan, oh. Wenning was stumped for a moment before he said, You're right, he has to learn eventually. He gazed at the sky. Just like Wei Gongzi and Sect Leader Zheng, Sect Leader Zheng had to learn about the core transfer eventually. Wei Gongzi couldn't possibly have kept Sect Leader Zheng in the dark his whole life. The night was still and quiet, and the river's current was deep and heavy. Out of the blue, Lamaji asked, Is it painful? What? Wenning said. Extracting one's core. Is it painful? Lan Gongzi, you wouldn't believe me if I told you no, would you? I assumed Wen Qing would have found a way. Before going up the mountain, my JJ prepared many anesthetics in hopes of alleviating the pain of extracting his core. But later, she realized such medication would be completely useless. If the subject is in a numbed state when the golden core is extracted from the body, it affects the core's stability. It becomes harder to prevent it from dissipating. Therefore, Lamaji probed, Wenning pausing in his rowing. Therefore, the subject of the golden core extraction procedure has to be completely conscious for its full duration. Oh, fuck! Oh, shit! Ugh. Well, that'll definitely change someone. Ouch. Oh. He had to be conscious as he watched his golden core be cut from his meridians and extracted from his body. He had to feel his surging spiritual energy gradually subsiding, calming, turning ordinary, until it became a pool of stagnant water that could no longer make waves. It was a long time before Lamaji found his voice again. It was a little raspy, and the words he spoke seemed to tremble. Its full duration? For 1 day and 2 nights, Wenning said. He remained conscious throughout. At the time, how confident were you of success? About 50%. Oh shit! There's a picture of it! That's so fucked! Oh my god! "50%. Lamonji soundlessly drew a deep breath and shook his head. He repeated, 50%. His hand tightened its hold on Wei Wuxian's waist, gripping so hard his knuckles turned white. After all, no one had conducted any sort of core-swapping procedure before, Wenning said. My JJ had written essays on the subject, but they were only theoretical. No one would ever let her experiment on them, so the theories remained untested. The sect senior said she was indulging in flights of fancy, that the idea was completely impractical. They knew no one would ever be willing to extract their golden core and give it to someone else, because if they did, they would be fundamentally crippled. They would never reach the pinnacle of their ability, but would remain mediocre for the rest of their life. So when Wei Gongzi returned to seek us out, my JJ was reluctant to even attempt the procedure at first. She warned him that writing an essay was one thing, but actually doing it was quite another. She wasn't even confident she'd have a 50% chance of success. But Wei Gongzi kept pestering her. He said 50% was fine. The chances of success and failure were equal. Even if it didn't work out and his core was wasted, he wasn't worried about his future. But that wasn't the case for sect leader Jiang. He was too competitive, too focused on what he stood to gain and lose in this aspect, since cultivation was his life, and if sect leader Jiang could only ever be an ordinary, mediocre person, his life would be over. Lan Wangji lowered his gaze. His eyes, light as glass, gazed at Wei Wuxian's face. He reached out, but ultimately only brushed Wei Wuxian's cheek with his fingertips. Wen Ning glanced back and couldn't resist asking about his reaction. Lan Gongzi, you don't seem very surprised. Did you already know? All I knew was that his spiritual power had likely been damaged somehow, Lan Wangji rasped with some difficulty. But he had not known that this was the truth. If not for this, Wen Ning trailed off. If not for the fact that he really had no other path to take. Just then, the head reclining on Lan Wangji's shoulder jerked a little. Wei Wuxian's eyelashes fluttered as he gradually came to. That's the end of the chapter. Holy shit, I had been waiting for that. Oh my god, that was amazing. What an incredible, incredible payoff. Like, these books are so long, you know? Like, they're so long and there's so much that you're given early. And, like, your first time experiencing it, you're kind of like, oh my god, so much, this is so crazy. And then later on, the payoff of everything is just, oh, it's so good. Damn. I'm so happy that Jiang Cheng knows and that Lan Wangji knows. That's crazy. I love how you can just sense the like love that Lan Wangji has for him, of like one just being like horrified that someone he loves so much went through this, but also just being like so shocked and like finding it so incredible that someone like Wei Wuxian exists in this world, and he already held him in such a high regard, you know, like truly seeing him as a hero, and just learning of something else that he had done that was so selfless. And just, I love how you could see that like really affected Lan Wangji. Like, he was just like, wow, like that is just an act of insane selflessness to help your brother like that. That's crazy. Lan Wangji's respect for him is just like through the roof. And then I love how Wen Ning spells it out there in the end. Like, if it wasn't for that, he wouldn't have taken this path, you know? It was all because of that. It's all because he wanted to help his brother. And now his brother is the biggest dick to him. Man. Lan Wangji does love him so much, Esper Lady. Ugh. That was so good. That was so good. Ah. They are in love. Yes, and he didn't get to the burial mounds until after that. Yes. That's crazy. I love the whiplash from, like, the nice tree moment to the, oh my god, golden core reveal moment. That was so satisfying, though. And this chapter, there are these last couple chapters, I love how touchy-feely Hualien are being. Like, you can tell they love each other at this point, you know? Like, there's no, like, whoa, wait, what? wait, I liked touching him? That's so weird. They're just like, it's so obvious that other people are even noticing it, you know? Oh, did I say Hualian? Freudian slip once again. Wang Xian. That's funny. That's funny. All right, friends. I gotta go. Tomorrow is the members only game night. So be sure to tune in at 7 to come play some games. Any membership tier can join if you want to join the membership. There is still time. 7 p.m. Vancouver, Canada time. Look it up. It's PST. There was daylight saving recently. So, oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Homotron. But it'll be a good fun time tomorrow night. Homotron, thank you for donating, says, like zoinks, Scoob. I went through all the 5 stages of grief during this. Gotta read some real spicy fics to get over this. And a fix-it fic for Jiang Cheng. Yes. Have a good night, Kictor, and all you beautiful people in the chat. Aw, have a good night, Homotron. That's a good send-off. Have a good night, everybody in the chat. And yes, I'll see you guys tomorrow at 7. Thank you so much for coming to hang out. All right. Bye. Ah, wrong button.